Chapter 658. The moment he heard that Hinata didn't want to get married, Naruto's entire mind went blank. However, in the next second, when Naruto teleported to Hinata's side, there were only tens of thousands of alpacas running around in his mind. Hinata, Sakura Haruno, Tion, and Tsunade were playing poker. Sakura Haruno saw him suddenly appear, and the smile in her eyes deepened. Tsunade couldn't hold it in at all and laughed out loud. Tion rolled his eyes and held back his laughter. Hinata looked a little wronged and scared. "Hinata, did you lose a game of poker?" Hinata nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Naruto continued, "So, you said what you said just now because you lost?" Hinata nodded again. Naruto took a deep breath. His little sweetheart was scared out of her wits this time. His face also darkened. "Who did you lose to?" Naruto looked at Sakura Haruno. Sakura Haruno shook her head repeatedly. Tion. Tion looked like it had nothing to do with him. "Then, Tsunade-san, you'll lose your precious disciple sooner or later like this. Also, don't you want to revive my brother-in-law?" Naruto narrowed his eyes and stared at Tsunade threateningly. Tsunade wasn't afraid at all. Instead, she rolled her eyes at Naruto and said in a bad mood, "You're all grown up now, aren't you? How dare you threaten your sister? Do you still have the dignity of a disciple in your heart?" At this time, she put on the airs of a teacher. Could a teacher bully their disciple as they pleased? Naruto was annoyed and pulled Hinata's hand to leave. "Let's go, Hinata. You'll learn bad things from these people sooner or later." Hinata was particularly obedient because she did something wrong. She lowered her head submissively and felt a little delighted. Then, she slipped away with Naruto. After Naruto and Hinata left, Sakura Haruno looked at their backs with envy. Tsunade saw it and joked, "Who are you thinking about? Master's heart aches when I see that resentful expression on your face." Sakura Haruno blushed and denied, "I'm not thinking of anyone." Tion said with a smile, "Of course she's thinking about Sasuke-kun." Haruno Sakura threw the pillow she was leaning against at him. The girls laughed and joked. Outside the house, Naruto and Hinata heard the noise and looked back. These girls are really energetic. Hinata's small hand fiddled with the corner of her clothes. This was a habit of Hinata's. Whenever she did something wrong, she would do it. Naruto saw it and felt pity. He raised his hand and touched Hinata's head. "It's okay, but don't scare me like that again." Hinata nodded obediently. Naruto took Hinata into his arms. "I can't live without you anymore." Hinata's pretty face blushed and her body stiffened. Although it wasn't the first time she was hugged by Naruto, she was still a little nervous. But soon she felt the difference this time. Naruto-kun's body was trembling. Naruto was afraid. Hinata had never felt fear from Naruto before. Her heart ached and she felt regret. She raised her hand and hugged Naruto. Her right hand gently stroked Naruto's back. In the past, when she was frightened, her mother comforted her like this. "I'm sorry. Hinata won't scare Naruto-kun like this in the future. No matter what the reason is, I won't." Naruto's uneasiness calmed down a lot. "Hinata, let's go and bring your parents over. Then we'll get married today." Hinata was shocked. "Today? But today is still many days away from the invitation you sent out. There should be people on the way." Naruto released Hinata and looked at Hinata seriously. "Then let's get married twice. Let's get married today. Let's get married again in 2 days. Marriage could be like this?" However, Hinata didn't refuse. She smiled and replied, "Okay, then let's go to the place where you proposed last time and get married secretly." Naruto hugged Hinata and teleported. The two disappeared at the same time. When they reappeared, they were in Naruto's bedroom. Naruto carried Hinata onto the bed. Hinata panicked. "Naruto-kun, what are you doing?" "Outside, it's still bright outside." Naruto looked at Hinata with a smirk. Then, he suddenly took out a pillow from behind and put it on Hinata's head. Then he teased, "What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about something that's not suitable for children?" Hinata's face turned even redder. Her heart beat faster. She couldn't help but bite her lips. Naruto lowered his head and pecked Hinata's lips. He said softly, "Lie down. Let's get married." After putting Hinata down, Naruto lay down on the bed. Then, he took Hinata into the church in the virtual reality world. The first place they entered was the changing room. However, because they logged in at the same time, they were in the same changing room. To be precise, Naruto slipped into Hinata's changing room. Then, "Hinata, choose a wedding dress. There are a lot more wedding dresses here than last time." Hinata looked around. There were indeed more wedding dresses than last time. "Did Naruto-kun also prepare these for me?" Naruto replied, "Yes. I just don't know if the people outside will revolt if they know that I'm not doing my job of designing wedding dresses every day." Hinata's heart was filled with sweetness. Then, "Naruto-kun, help Hinata choose a dress." The difficult task of choosing a wedding dress was actually given to him. Naruto was a little happy but also a little scared. He was afraid that the dress he chose wouldn't be to Hinata's liking. Then, in terms of color, is there anything you particularly like? Hinata stood to the side obediently and smiled. "Anything is fine." Naruto scratched his head and looked around. The hardest thing to choose was that everything was fine. Naruto opened the system and began to search for Hinata's image. He wanted to find some clues from Hinata's usual clothes, but he found that the most were actually training clothes. Could training clothes be used for a wedding? It should be possible. However, ordinary people would probably be beaten to death if they chose this. Forget it. How about using the dragon robe and phoenix robe? Naruto prepared that for his wedding to show off. Now, it was better to wait until the wedding. If he showed off, there would be people watching. Then, let's do something interesting this time? Naruto raised his hand and made a brown bear suit. He smirked at Hinata and said, "Then let's do this." Originally, Naruto wanted to tease Hinata, but he didn't expect that Hinata began to look at the clothes with a curious expression. This? Before Naruto finished speaking, Hinata had already put on the clothes. "Okay, we'll do this. However, Naruto-kun also wants to wear this." Naruto's body stiffened. Did he end up making the wedding into a game? However, feeling Hinata's joy, Naruto didn't hesitate too much. As long as Hinata was happy, what couldn't he do? Naruto made himself a set of big head bears with a darker color. "Let's go and get married." Naruto pulled Hinata into the church. The wedding march was played. On the long red carpet, two little bears walked to the church hand in hand. The scene was quite affectionate. However, after entering the church, Naruto suddenly saw Otsutsuki Kagaya standing in the priest's position. Naruto was dumbfounded. What happened? Why was Otsutsuki Kagaya here? "Why are you here?" Otsutsuki Kagaya replied, "I think you lack a witness." Otsutsuki Kagaya knew about the witness? Was it because of Kakashi's wedding last time? Hinata pulled Naruto's hand and said timidly, "Naruto-kun, who is she?" Naruto took a deep breath. "She is the witness." Hinata continued to ask, "Who is the witness?" Naruto. Chapter 659. Wait, I need to calm down. Why am I so nervous? I'm not afraid of the shadow. No, I'm not afraid of the shadow. Naruto dispelled the inexplicable feeling of being caught in bed and privately explained to Hinata, "She is Kagaya Otsutsuki, the mother of Rikudo Sennin. She is also the Jubi sealed by Rikudo." In order to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, Naruto passed the memory he saw from Rikudo Sennin to Hinata. Hinata saw the part where Rikudo Sennin called Otsutsuki Kagaya a monster and felt pity for Otsutsuki Kagaya. Naruto-kun. She's so pitiful. Naruto finally breathed a sigh of relief. He also understood that the feeling of being caught in bed was actually because he was afraid that Hinata would misunderstand. Yes, from a mother's point of view, she should be the most miserable. By the way, she is also your and my ancestor. The bloodline of the Uzumaki clan originates from Rikudo Sennin, and the bloodline of the Hyuga clan originates from Rikudo Sennin's younger brother, a person named Otsutsuki Hamura. And these two unfilial sons are the children of the person in front of you. Ancestor? Hinata believed Naruto's words unconditionally, so she respectfully saluted Otsutsuki Kagaya. Salute. On the stage, Otsutsuki Kagaya glanced at Naruto. You seem to have whispered a lot to her? Well, but it doesn't matter. Aren't you getting married today? Come on, let's continue with the wedding. Well, I should ask you questions next, right? That girl, you get up, the wedding continues. Hinata got up after the salute. Otsutsuki then began to read the priest's lines, which was the part that Metkei preached at Kakashi's wedding. Whether rich or poor, sick or healthy, young or old, are you willing Toto love her forever, to comfort her, to accompany her, to never leave her for the rest of her life? Otsutsuki Kagaya looked at Naruto solemnly. Compared to Guy, Otsutsuki Kagaya was more like a priest. After all, Otsutsuki Kagaya was a god. To let Otsutsuki Kagaya preside over the wedding, how many people in the world could experience this kind of treatment? Naruto removed the bare head on his head and the puppet suit. He changed into a formal suit. At the same time, Hinata's clothes were changed into a white formal wedding dress. What followed next was a historic moment. Naruto, I'm willing. Otsutsuki nodded with satisfaction. It was not only his answer to Naruto, but also Naruto's actions. Otsutsuki Kagaya could feel that the change of clothes was a sign of respect for her. Otsutsuki Kagaya turned to Hinata and said, whether rich or poor, in sickness or in health, in prosperity or in adversity, will you always respect him, support him, and accompany him for the rest of your life, and never leave him? Hinata replied seriously, I'm willing. Otsutsuki Kagaya announced, okay, I declare in my name that the bride and groom are husband and wife. Now, the groom can kiss the bride. This part of the script had been changed, but the change was still reasonable. Wasn't the god of this world the one in front of her? Naruto turned around and looked at Hinata affectionately. Hinata's gaze was a little evasive, her eyelashes trembled, and finally she closed her eyes. Naruto. Naturally, he wouldn't be polite. He lowered his head and kissed her without hesitation and enjoyed it. The two kissed together, and this wedding with only two people was a complete success. When Naruto's mouth left Hinata's lips, Hinata's trembling eyelashes slowly opened. On the stage, Otsutsuki Kagaya had disappeared as if he had never been there. Naruto was still holding Hinata. The two glanced at Otsutsuki Kagaya's original position, and then looked at each other again. Sorry, this wedding is a little simple. I'm afraid that if I wait any longer, there will be an accident. I'm afraid that the wedding won't go smoothly. After reading the memories of Hagoromo Sennin, Hinata could feel some of Naruto's uneasiness. She snuggled in Naruto's arms, shook her head gently and said, "These are not important. As long as the one standing in front of me is Naruto-kun, then everything is not important." Naruto hugged Hinata tightly. "In my life, the most beautiful words of love I have heard is what you said, Hinata." Hinata blushed and said shyly, "I'm not talking about love, I'm serious." Naruto lowered his head and kissed Hinata's hair, closed his eyes, and replied, "This is even more beautiful words of love." The two hugged each other for an unknown amount of time. Hinata looked at him and whispered, "Naruto-kun, are we married now?" Naruto whispered back, "Of course." Both of their voices were very low, like two cute mealworms whispering in the mountains at night. No, it's Toad? That's not right. Well, it's always very cute and very happy." Hinata liked this feeling very much. She hugged Naruto's hand tighter. Then, we. Hinata's voice was getting lower and lower. Naruto didn't understand. "Huh? What do you want to say? Or do you want something?" "Don't worry, no matter what you want, even if it's the stars in the sky, I will pick them for you." "What do I want?" Hinata's face was even redder. and she hugged Naruto tightly. She buried her head in Naruto's arms. It's not that I want that. I mean, Hinata's voice was even lower. Naruto put his ear close to Hinata's mouth and whispered, "Whisper it to me, only I am here, no one else can hear it." Hinata thought about it and whispered, "We are already married, then are we going to sleep together?" The moment he heard this sentence, Naruto's heart melted. What is happiness coming too suddenly? This is it. Unfortunately, the Otsutsuki Kagaya in Naruto's body replied, "No, I'm here, I heard it too." Of course, this sentence was only heard by Naruto. If Hinata could hear it, she would definitely die of embarrassment. Naruto ignored the suddenly naughty Kagaya and whispered to Hinata, "Yes, we will always sleep together in the future, until forever." Hinata's head was buried even lower. "Then, will we have children?" "We haven't officially married yet, no. I didn't mean that this marriage is not official. I mean my parents don't know yet. If they know we... Naruto was stunned by Hinata's cuteness. "Hinata, did you grow up eating cuteness?" He whispered, "Hinata, do you know how children come about?" Hinata shrank into a ball. "Ah." Naruto found it interesting and continued to ask, "There won't be children just in the same bed. Also need..." "Hinata, let me teach you how to have children." Hinata bit her lips tightly. She wouldn't say that Tsunade had already taught her. Also, because of the Byakugan, she saw a lot of things she shouldn't have seen a long time ago. "Well, I have learned it long ago." Naruto hugged Hinata and exited the virtual reality world. The atmosphere was thick. Kagaya in Naruto's body said, "Your world has a trap, right? My advice is not to have children so easily, otherwise, you will be the next me." Naruto didn't mention the will of the world to Kagaya. But now it seems that Kagaya seems to have noticed it. Children, this inevitable time bomb. Chapter 660. He got up early in the morning and put on his clothes shyly with Hinata. Then, they washed up together, and had breakfast together. Naruto suddenly felt that his life was complete. System notification, Shiba Inu sent a video call. Naruto yawned lazily and clicked on the call. The Shiba Inu's cute dog head directly entered the screen. "Boss, I found the underground palace. I didn't expect such a big world to be hidden on the moon. Look, boss." The Shiba Inu turned the camera to the shared vision of the Shiba Inu. The scenery was beautiful, and the trees were like a forest. At a glance, it was almost the same as the real world. The most amazing thing was that there was a sun in the sky. There were clouds, and the clouds were moving. It was hard to imagine that this was a world built underground. Naruto nodded with satisfaction. The underground palace was found, and the existence of the Otsutsuki Tonari was confirmed. "You did a good job. Stay here and wait for orders." After hanging up the call, Naruto took a deep breath and stood up. He took off his pajamas and prepared to go out. "Naruto-kun, are you going out?" "Then, let Hinata change for you." Hinata put down the tea and snacks in her hand and walked slowly to Naruto. Then, she took the clothes from Naruto's hand. Naruto was stunned. He said embarrassedly, "I can do it myself." Hinata did not give up. She clumsily changed Naruto's clothes and replied, "Mother said that it is the wife's right to change her husband's clothes." "Right. Not obligation." Naruto suddenly felt deep respect for his mother-in-law. Then, he cooperated with Hinata to put on his clothes bit by bit. When she was done, Naruto said, "Then, Hinata, since it is the woman's right to change her husband's clothes, it is also the husband's right to change his wife's clothes, right?" With that, Naruto turned around with a smirk and looked at Hinata, who was still in her nightgown. Hinata was already shy. When Naruto suddenly turned around to look at her, her face immediately turned red. This. Mother never said anything about it." Hinata was a little confused. Naruto's hand grabbed his belt. She lowered her head and whispered in Hinata's ear, "Mother didn't say? Then your husband will say it." Untying her belt, Hinata shyly closed her eyes. Her white teeth bit her lips, which made Naruto certain that Hinata had indeed grown up eating cuteness. Naruto waved his hand and Hinata's wardrobe opened. Then, one by one, the clothes were sent to Naruto through the air. Naruto had never worn clothes for a woman, but with his extremely high IQ, he still dressed decently. Naruto didn't do anything strange during the process. He was just as careful as when Hinata changed his clothes for him. Well, look at yourself in the mirror. How do you think of your husband? Naruto stood behind Hinata, holding Hinata's shoulders with both hands. Hinata carefully opened her eyes. She saw an extremely stunning scene. The clothes were well chosen. Not only was she dressed neatly, but even her makeup was done for her. Look, isn't my big baby more beautiful? Hinata opened her mouth and said timidly, Naruto-kun, how can you be so skilled? You don't tell me. Hinata didn't finish her words, but it was obvious that she was a little sad. Naruto instantly understood. He quickly cleared his name and said, Don't accuse me wrongly. You are my first and last woman. As for the clothes and makeup, I searched for them in the super brain system. I swear. Hinata's unhappy face instantly turned bright. Then I forgive you. Then, she suddenly tiptoed and pecked Naruto's face. She said shyly, This is your reward. Naruto's heart only felt a burst of numbness. You little vixen. Fortunately, you are a girl. If you were a boy, I don't know how many innocent young men you would flirt with. With that, Naruto pinched Hinata's face. Hinata didn't agree. Naruto-kun is talking nonsense again. I am not a little vixen. Naruto put his face in front of Hinata. Yes, my Hinata is not a little vixen. But your reward is not enough. You need a stamp here. Hinata didn't agree. No, the reward is enough. If you want a reward, wait for the next one. Naruto and Hinata laughed a little. Even an ordinary sentence between a young couple was as sweet as honey. Half an hour later. By the way, Naruto-kun, you were going out just now, right? On the bed, two people with slightly messy clothes were lying side by side. They didn't do anything bad. They just tickled each other for a long time. Well, it's almost the official wedding date, isn't it? I plan to take you to pick up your parents and sister. When Hinata heard this, she sat up. Are you going to pick up father and mother? Then, Naruto, when they come, I think. Let's sleep in separate rooms. Otherwise, that girl Hua will definitely laugh at me. Naruto blinked. Sleep in separate rooms? Hinata nodded seriously and said, Yes, sleep in separate rooms. Naruto moved to Hinata's side pitifully and put his head on Hinata's thigh. His face was facing Hinata's belly, and he said coquettishly, Without you, the bed is cold. Hinata blushed and whispered, It's okay. Naruto-kun is not afraid of the cold. Naruto continued, But my heart is afraid of the cold. What if she met a boyfriend who knew how to act coquettishly? Looking at the extremely handsome and pitiful Naruto, Hinata's heart softened. She couldn't even say the words of rejection fluently. In the past, I also slept like this. Okay. The two of them acted coquettishly and sweetly and unknowingly. Another half an hour passed. When the two of them dressed up again and went out to see their parents, it was already late in the morning. Naruto took Hinata and activated the teleportation array. The location was the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute of the Snow Country. The people of the Hyuga clan now lived in the country of the Snow Country. Naruto and Hinata first visited the two elders. After learning that Naruto came for the wedding, the two elders summoned the entire Hyuga clan together. The happiest one among them was Hinata's younger sister, Hyuga Hua. Wow, the future brother-in-law is so handsome, even more handsome than when he appeared in the sky that day. Naruto touched the little girl's head. Your mouth is as sweet as your sister's. The little girl couldn't stand it. Brother-in-law, how can you touch your sister-in-law's head like this? Naruto thought it was unreasonable and seemed to be too frivolous. But who knew, the little girl directly asked for a gift. You haven't given me a greeting gift yet, we are not that familiar yet. If you want to touch my head, you have to give me a greeting gift first. I don't want something too precious, the pure white winged tiger from the snowy mountain will do. Pure white winged tiger? Pure white is the appearance of a winged tiger cub. This girl wants a winged tiger cub? This gift is really not too expensive. After all, Silly Big has nothing to do at home to play with children. Most of the winged tigers in the snow country are this guy's children. Okay, I'll choose one for you. Naruto answered simply. The little girl looked happy and said, I want a cute, well-behaved, yes, a male. It is said that pets of the opposite sex are close to their owners, and pets of the same sex are enemies. Is there such a saying? Naruto really didn't study it. His pets didn't dare to give him any face. In the end, Naruto chose a 1-year-old male winged tiger cub for the little girl, but even if it was only 1 year old, it was big enough to carry people. The little girl liked to name the little guy Xiao Xiao. Hua Hua rode on Xiao Xiao's back and happily said to Naruto, Now you can touch my head as you like. Naruto raised his hand and touched her. She was really obedient. Are girls nowadays so easy to satisfy? In the spiritual network, Naruto contacted Sasuke and said, Your job is here. Protect the Hyuga clan's Hyuga Hanabi. Then he contacted the Shiba Inu and said, Find a place that is absolutely safe and not monitored, I will be there soon. Chapter 661. This place really does look like it. Naruto walked out of the teleportation portal and looked around. The place chosen by the Shiba Inu was an abandoned city. Only the outline of a house remained. At a glance, the pitch-black window looked like countless pairs of eyes. Some of them seeped in, but they didn't scare Naruto. There used to be a lot of people living here, Naruto sighed. Then, he looked further away. There was a lush forest outside the city, and the bright sun. This sun was a little yellow, and the light was much softer than the real sun. If I remember correctly, that's where that guy lives. I wonder if that guy is at home now. The Shiba Inu followed Naruto's gaze and asked doubtfully, The sun? Someone lives in the sun? Naruto replied, That is not the real sun. It's an artificial sun. Artificial sun? The Shiba Inu stared at the sun curiously. As a clone of Naruto, the Shiba Inu shared its memory. However, since the Shiba Inu said that it didn't want to disappear and wanted to live, Naruto separated the Shiba Inu's memory. Boss, do you want to go in? Take me with you. I want to take a look inside the sun. Naruto looked at the cute dog head of the Shiba Inu. Okay, split a smaller body and follow me. Hearing Naruto's reply, the Shiba Inu split into a fist-sized dog head and floated beside Naruto. Yes, it was very cute. It floated here and there, and there was a kind of joy in it. Naruto raised his eyebrows. A circle of light lit up beside Naruto. He warned, If you don't want to lose me, stay within the circle of light. The Shiba Inu was very obedient and stopped flying around. Teleportation. Naruto disappeared with the Shiba Inu. When he reappeared, he was already on the surface of the sun. He didn't stand on it, nor did he touch it. Naruto just floated in front of the artificial sun. System notification. Discovered barrier formation. System notification. Do you want to scan the structure of the barrier? Naruto thought. Scan. System notification. Extracting chakra from the surface of the barrier. Extraction of chakra is successful. Now begin analyzing the wavelength of chakra's spiritual energy. Analysis of chakra's spiritual energy wavelength successful. Beginning simulation of chakra. In front of Naruto's eyes, the system interface was constantly updated with data until the preparation work was completed. The data began to form a three-dimensional image. It continued to spread, and soon, a spherical enchantment appeared in front of Naruto. This was the barrier set up on the surface of the artificial sun. System notification. Barrier scan successful. Now, let's begin cracking. Type A sex analysis is ineffective. Attempting Type B sex. Type B sex analysis is invalid. Type E. Naruto looked at the diagram in front of him and finally clicked End. Because Naruto had found a loophole in the barrier. Naruto pressed his hand on the surface of the sun, and a trace of chakra was sent out. This chakra is composed of two parts. The outside is the chakra that simulates the surface of the artificial sun, and the inside is Naruto's chakra. The weak chakra did not attract the attention of the artificial sun's defense system. Naruto's chakra was successfully sent into the artificial sun's barrier defense system, and then flowed to the other side. Coordinates established successfully. Space transmission. Naruto disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already inside the sun. There are many floating buildings inside the sun. These buildings seem to be disorderly, but if you look carefully, you will find that they are all around the largest castle in the middle. There is also a boulder shaped like a crescent moon. Naruto looked at the boulder shaped like a crescent moon. To be precise, it was a ball in the crescent moon of the boulder. Under the vision of Rinnegan, the light around the ball was distorted, giving people a sense of seeing but not being able to see clearly. Naruto's mouth slowly raised, revealing a malicious smile. He found what he was looking for. The Otsutsuki Hamura clan, the Tensigan that was fused with the Byakugan. Boss, you are so cool. If it were me, I would definitely not be able to sneak in. Shiba Inu seized the opportunity and began to flatter Naruto. To be honest, being flattered by one's own clone. There was something strange about this feeling. Although this clone is now independent. Naruto glanced at Shiba Inu and scolded. As my clone, except for Rinnegan, you have all my abilities, why can't you come in? Shiba Inu choked. With a pitiful look, he replied jokingly, it's this little one who is stupid. Naruto rolled his eyes. Come on, don't flatter me like this in the future. Am I such a shallow person? Shiba Inu shook his head again and said, if you are a shallow person, there will be no wise people in this world. Naruto nodded with appreciation and said with a proud face, it's good that you know. Let's go, I'll take you to the castle. Let's see if the owner of this land is still there. Naruto took the cute dog head of Shiba Inu and teleported to the gate of the palace. System prompt. A new type of barrier defense system found. Naruto raised his eyebrows. There is a defense system inside, this guy is cautious enough. At this moment, there was a strange sound. Naruto saw a person riding on a strange bird looking at him. It was not a human, there was no breath unique to living people, but a puppet. Void. Invisibility. Naruto's figure disappeared. The patrolling soldier riding on the mechanical puppet flew past where Naruto was originally standing. After discovering that the target had disappeared, the puppet circled in the sky for a few more times. After a few minutes of not finding the target, it left. Inside the invisibility barrier, Naruto sighed, what a vigilant little puppet, I wonder if there is someone controlling it. If there isn't, then it's worth studying. System prompt. Barrier scan complete, beginning cracking. Naruto carefully looked at the perception barrier. In the end, he confirmed that this barrier was a barrier that targeted physical objects and optical reflections. In other words, this was a perception barrier with multiple surveillance functions. This should be set up to cooperate with the patrolling puppet. Naruto maintained his void and invisible form as he floated into the castle. The castle was very lively. The first thing Naruto saw was a puppet wiping the floor. Then there was a puppet with a small body like a Barbie doll in a maid costume wiping the frame of a hanging painting. And there were many more. All kinds of puppets were busy with their own things, each performing their own duties, and the entire castle was spotless. Naruto walked around the castle, but Tonari Otsutsuki didn't seem to be in the castle. Then Naruto continued to look at the working puppets. They even took the initiative to knock over some equipment. Then, a puppet would quickly run over to pick up the things that fell on the ground and put them in their original positions. Shiba Inu, my palace seems to lack such a hard-working and honest good employee. Shiba Inu raised its head and looked around, then replied, I think this castle is also good. If I give it to the mistress as a wedding gift, she will definitely like it. Naruto glanced at Shiba Inu's cute dog head and asked in surprise, "Are you a demon?" "If you ask me, this artificial sun is also good." Shiba Inu replied with Naruto's expression, "No, I am not a demon, you are. Compared to you, I am simply an angel." Chapter 662. In the inner world of the moon, the dim artificial sun suddenly trembled, and then the shadows of the trees on the ground began to shake violently. After a few moments, the sky suddenly darkened. The artificial sun disappeared. "Boss, you really took that thing away." At this moment, Shiba Inu's admiration for Naruto was like a torrential river, out of control. In the darkness, Naruto's red Rinnegan glanced around and urged, "Take back your chakra, and we will retreat." Retreat? Shiba Inu was stunned, and then it suddenly dawned on him. Stealing someone else's sun, of course, he had to escape. Shiba Inu thought. The Shiba Inu all over the surface of the moon responded, and at the same time, they released their clones. "It's over. It's over. Space transmission." The halo of transmission flashed in the darkness, and Naruto slipped away with Shiba Inu, and when he reappeared, he had returned to the Mingdu Empire. I don't know how Tonari Otsutsuki will feel after knowing that I moved away from his nest. Naruto mobilized the rules of space, erasing all traces of transmission while looking up at the moon in the sky. It was daytime, so the moon was not conspicuous. At the same time, in the bedroom of a hotel, the 4 puppets around Tonari Otsutsuki were suddenly paralyzed and fell to the ground, scattering into a pile of parts. Tonari Otsutsuki was shocked. Chakra was directly provided and controlled by the Tensigen if there was a problem with the puppets. Then, the Tensigen. Tonari Otsutsuki made a hand seal to summon the passage to the moon. No response. What the hell is going on? Tonari Otsutsuki's face was gloomy. The Tensigen on the moon was the blood of the entire branch family, and no mistakes were allowed. Tonari Otsutsuki clenched his fists tightly, thinking about what he could do at this moment. "Do you want to know what happened on the moon?" Tonari Otsutsuki felt the yin-yang mark on his palm heat up. It was the voice of Hagoromo Sennin. Tonari Otsutsuki quickly asked, "Hagoromo Sennin? Do you know what happened on the moon?" The scenery in front of Otsutsuki Tonari changed, and then he saw the scene of Naruto and a native dog entering the moon. He watched Naruto sneak into the interior of the artificial sun with a dog. He watched as they sneaked into his palace. In the end, the artificial sun was taken away. Taken away. It was taken away. He actually took it away along with the artificial sun. How crazy must one be to do such a thing? "Why don't you take the moon away?" Rikudo Sennin waited for Otsutsuki Tonari to finish venting his anger before he said, "With your current ability, you can't do anything. Only by obtaining the Byakugan and awakening the Tensigen can you hope to fight." Tonari Otsutsuki calmed down, took a deep breath, and calmed down the anger in his heart. But it's not easy to get a Byakugan with the purity standard. The people of the Hyuga clan are all protected by that guy. The immortal of 6 paths laughed. "I have a way for you to get the supercilious eyes." Snow Country, Great Snow Mountain Research Institute. Naruto came to the residence of Uzumaki Mito. After the establishment of the Mingdu Empire, some people moved to the Mingdu Empire, such as Tsunade, Hinata, and Sakura Haruno. There are also people who are unwilling to move because they are addicted to research, such as Dabi, Uzumaki Mito, and Kabuto Yakushi. "Naruto, what's the matter?" Uzumaki Mito glanced at Naruto. "Oh, by the way, is it about my resurrection? Wait for me to deduce this algorithm." Uzumaki Mito continued to deduce the curse formula seriously. Naruto stood aside and watched. "It's not about the resurrection. The resurrection will have to wait for a while." Uzumaki Mito was immersed in calculating, and after writing a few strokes, he replied, "Then what is it?" Naruto said mysteriously, "It's a very interesting thing. You will know when you finish the formula." When Uzumaki Mito heard that it was an interesting thing, his eyes rolled. What's the matter? By the way, did you get the girl from the Uzumaki clan? Is she pregnant? When can she give birth to little Uzumaki? Naruto's face suddenly darkened. Since Kabuto Yakushi told Uzumaki Mito that Naruto was looking for Karen, Uzumaki Mito has been urging Naruto to become a stallion and contribute to the revitalization of the Uzumaki clan. This is also the reason why Naruto wants to wait until after the marriage to resurrect Uzumaki Mito. Naruto is afraid that if he resurrects Uzumaki Mito and finds out that he is also a girl, Uzumaki Mito will directly stuff him into his bed. With Naruto's understanding of Uzumaki Mito in front of him, Naruto believes that this girl will definitely do such a thing. Cough. 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 This is not urgent. Uzumaki Mito suddenly raised his head and reprimanded, "Why are you not in a hurry? Revitalizing the clan is a big thing." Naruto was forced to face red, and now he has begun to regret coming. I heard a rumor that there is still Uzumaki bloodline in this world, and it is a male. Well, so, wait for me to look again. Uzumaki Mito was surprised when he heard this. Really? Naruto was about to nod. Uzumaki Mito's expression suddenly took a 360-degree turn. Her eyes were full of disbelief as she asked again, "Really?" Naruto took a deep breath. "This rumor, whether it is true or not, we will know after looking." Uzumaki Mito stared at Naruto and nodded. "Well, I will believe you for the time being." Uzumaki Mito continued to calculate the formula. Naruto secretly wiped the sweat on his forehead. There are not many people in this world who can still make him feel pressure. Not to mention others, he is the one who made Rikudo cry. But such a fierce person really can't do anything to this little guy in front of him. Okay. The first step of the formula is deduced. What about the fun part you said? The deduction is done? Naruto looked down at the formula. Well, he didn't understand. He only saw that it seemed to be related to the rules of space. Naruto couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The Mito girl's mastery of curse seals is higher. Even Naruto had to admit this. Although his understanding of curse seals has long been far beyond ordinary people, compared to Uzumaki Mito, it can only be said that he was a child in the presence of a great one. Naruto asked casually, "What is this formula for?" Uzumaki Mito replied, "It is a wonderful idea of mine, to compress the three-dimensional space into a two-dimensional curse seal formula. I am not sure if it can be realized." Compress the three-dimensional space into a two-dimensional space? Naruto was lost in thought. Well, don't change the topic. Tell me what is the fun part you said. Uzumaki Mito showed his super fierce claws and was about to pounce. Naruto didn't think too much, the space distorted, and took Uzumaki Mito to preserved egg's inner world. That's the artificial sun. There are a lot of fun things in there, but it is not completely deciphered. The guy inside is not very obedient. Chapter 663. The artificial sun's surface enchantment was successfully cracked. The castle's multi-perception enchantment was successfully cracked. But even so, the puppets in the castle would still attack after seeing Naruto. It can be seen that each puppet still has an independent perception enchantment. And these puppets that rushed over when they saw Naruto, almost all of them were frozen into ice sculptures by Naruto. "Wait, give that puppet to me," Uzumaki Mito called out. With a thought from Naruto, 4 of the 5 puppets that rushed over were frozen into ice sculptures, and the last one was released. It was a petite little puppet dressed in maid attire. It was agile and could run on the ground or leap in the air. The little puppet rushed towards Naruto, and Naruto dodged it. So the little guy rushed towards Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito hurriedly parried a few times and asked for help. "Naruto, do you want to die? I asked you to give it to me to let me study it, not to let it fight with me." Naruto replied heartlessly, Tion is holed up in the house, seriously lacking in exercise, just take the opportunity to exercise." Uzumaki Mito narrowly dodged the sharp knife from the maid's finger and said anxiously, "Help me catch her, I can't hold on anymore." Zap. The puppet maid's hand chopped down from the top of Uzumaki Mito's head. The body of the Edo Tensei will not be damaged before the expiration date. Where it was cut, ashes floated out and then floated back and directly repaired itself. But the clothes were not so lucky. The clothes worn by Uzumaki Mito were real. This was Uzumaki Mito's own request, so that she could wear a variety of beautiful little dresses. So, the fluffy dark red princess dress was directly split into 2 halves. "Naruto!" Uzumaki Mito shouted, and Naruto immediately turned around. He replied, "I didn't see anything." Uzumaki Mito said angrily, "I told you to get rid of this guy." Naruto turned around. His fingers parted slightly as he locked onto the position of the puppet. Then, with a flip of his palm, his fingers pressed down. Gravity changed, increasing the domain. Boom! The nimble puppet was directly pressed to the ground. The naked little Mito didn't avoid arousing suspicion. Wearing his sleeves, he squatted down and began to study his little puppet. He muttered to himself, How could the talisman array on her be so simple? That doesn't make sense." Naruto could not help but remind him, "Cough, cough. Let's change our clothes first." Uzumaki Mito looked down at himself and said indifferently, "I'm still a child. There's nothing to see. I don't care if I change or not. Naruto, come here and take a look at this puppet. The runes on its body are very simple. How did it complete such a difficult movement? Or was it because the child had nothing to look at? In any case, it was the body of a 13-year-old. Why was there nothing to see? Does this girl trust me too much, or is her guard really that low?" Naruto looked at the maid puppet. It was about the same size as the little Mito. As soon as Naruto waved his hand, he directly stripped the clothes from the puppet's body, and then waved his hand to change Mito's clothes. As for the original broken clothes, they were thrown aside. "Wow! Naruto, how did you do it? It's like changing clothes with a button in the virtual reality world." "Are we in the virtual reality world?" "No, the system shows that I'm not in stealth state now." Naruto simply explained, "It's just a space ninjutsu, but this move can only be used on the body of the Edo Tensei. Because space distortion is easy to accidentally injure, Edo Tensei is not afraid of accidental injuries." "Well, what do you think about this puppet?" Naruto didn't want to talk too much about the clothes because his mind couldn't help but think of the situation just now, and some divergent thoughts. For example, maid dress, will Hinata look good wearing it? How about letting Hinata wear it tonight? If Hinata is willing to wear it. It's said that the mind is the most unsettled, and Naruto fully experienced it at this time. He had to stare at the puppet and force himself to concentrate to divert his attention. But he found that, damn, this puppet is also very delicate. After the clothes are taken off, the inside is almost the same as a real person. Naruto raised his hand and directly froze the puppet with rough ice. The so-called rough ice is similar to atomized glass, ice that is not transparent. Then he raised his hand and grabbed a man over and studied it. "What did you say about this puppet?" The little Mito looked at the puppet that was frozen by Naruto and tilted her head. "I said, the curse seal inside this puppet is very simple, it can't explain how it completed that kind of high-intensity battle." Naruto checked the inside of the puppet. Indeed, the curse seal inside the puppet is very simple, it can even be said to be simple. Is someone secretly controlling it? This is impossible. Naruto searched the inside of the artificial sun with the Shiba Inu, and he couldn't find any normal life response at all. The only thing that has a life response is the huge Tensigen. Naruto suddenly had a guess in his heart. "Let's not talk about the puppet, I'll take you to see another thing." Naruto walked to the side of the Mito, and a layer of ripples in space wrapped the two of them. Space teleportation. Suddenly disappeared, and then suddenly appeared. When they appeared again, they had appeared in front of a huge crescent-shaped boulder. Hundreds of meters high, suspended in mid-air, surrounded by crescent moons, there is a ball tens of meters high. The surface of the ball is uneven and does not reflect light. "What do you think is different about the ball?" Naruto asked Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito looked carefully for a long time and shook her head. It seems, there is no difference. You mean there is a barrier? The barrier is quite ordinary, similar to the perception barrier of the castle. The ball was no different in front of Uzumaki Mito's eyes, but in Naruto's eyes, even the light around the ball was distorted. Let's go, I'll take you in to see. Close to the ball, Naruto found an entrance on the uneven surface. Walking up the stairs, the scene in Rinnegan became more and more distorted. Naruto, there seems to be a light in front. It was very dark inside the entrance and exit hole, but as they walked, they saw the light. The golden light was very soft, but there was no trace of warmth. Naruto took Mito and sped up. After walking through several corridors, the front finally opened up. It was a huge sphere with a height of 10 meters. The sphere was surrounded by several metal rings, and the metal rings were surrounded by mysterious inscriptions. What is this? Little Mito stared at the huge light ball with bright eyes. Several talisman lines spread out from her body. Naruto replied, "This thing is called Tensigen. It is composed of a large number of Byakugan, and the specific working principle is unknown. It can swallow the energy in the void, store and release it. If my guess is right, the reason why the puppet can move has an inseparable relationship with this huge eye." As soon as the talisman lines on Mito approached the Tensigen, they disappeared. To be precise, they were swallowed. Naruto's. The barrier authority on the eye is very strict, and my chakra will be swallowed as soon as it gets close. There is not even time to extract chakra. Naruto tried the same thing, and the trick that invaded the surface of the artificial sun couldn't be used at all. Then it seems that we need to find a teammate. This thing should not be close to people who have Byakugan. Chapter 664. After Naruto called Hinata over, the outer layer of the Tensigen was finally broken. Naruto-kun, what is this? Why do I suddenly have an urge to cry? After the outer layer of the Tensigen was broken, Hinata's hand was still pressed on the outer wall of the Tensigen. Naruto didn't hide it and introduced it to Hinata. This huge ball of light is called the Tensigen, which is the fusion of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon with the Byakugan. Speaking of this, Naruto glanced at Hinata's eyes. Originally, in Naruto's imagination, after Hinata obtains the Shodai cells, there will be an 80% chance of awakening the Tensigen. However, 3 years have passed, and Hinata's eyes have not moved so far. The Otsutsuki clan on the moon? Hinata was slightly stunned. Not long ago, at the wedding of the two, Hinata just heard about the Otsutsuki Kagaya from Naruto. She knows that Hagoromo Sennin has a younger brother named Otsutsuki Hamura, and that there is an Otsutsuki clan on the moon who inherited the Byakugan. However, Hinata was not stunned because of this, but because she suddenly remembered a childhood memory. In her memory, she seemed to be held by her father and met an elder. She didn't remember what the elder looked like, nor did she remember what they said. She only remembered that the elder seemed to be holding a child about the same age as her. Hinata still wanted to think about it carefully, but the picture was always vague, and she gave up after trying. She turned to Naruto and asked, "Then why is it here?" Naruto waved his hand, and a puppet that was frozen into an ice sculpture in the distance flew over. "It's a long story. Look at this puppet. This is a puppet unique to the Otsutsuki clan." The ice melted, and the appearance of the puppet became clearer. The puppet struggled for a while, as if it wanted to break free, but it was in vain. Naruto's hand was very steady. Although most of the ice had melted, the joints were still frozen. Naruto continued, "This kind of puppet doesn't seem to need human control to be able to move independently. The theory behind it is still under investigation. The key point is that 2 months ago, this kind of puppet appeared in the Snow Country." Naruto showed a video to Hinata. In the picture, several puppets similar to the ones in Naruto's hands sneakily entered the Snow Country, triggering the security system of the Snow Country, and then were killed on the spot by Uchiha Sasuke. After watching the video, Hinata guessed, "Are they enemies? Are you also here to steal the technology?" Naruto nodded. "Yes, it's an enemy. But they are not here to steal the technology. According to my inference, they should be here to steal the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. After saying that, Naruto pointed to the huge Tensigan in front of him. Do you see this eye? This is a kind of Tensigan, and there is another kind that needs to be integrated with the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. The bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan is integrated with the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. This is like the evolution of the Sharingan to the Rinnegan. So, when they had the idea of the Byakugan, I took drastic measures to deal with them. Is this the truth? Well, sort of. So the ins and outs of the matter were explained clearly. The role played by Naruto also became positive. But in fact, the whole thing was actually added by Naruto after the fact. Naruto didn't know that Uchiha Sasuke encountered the puppet of the Otsutsuki clan in the Snow Country. Because the incident happened quickly and ended quickly, no damage was caused. Naruto knew about it after he got the Byakugan back. Just now, Naruto looked through the security incident records of the Snow Country and learned about it. And then, things became like this. The word thief was completely removed. Naruto-kun, thank you. Then, Sasuke, Kuin has been with Hanabi. Is he protecting Hanabi? Sasuke is with Hanabi? This sentence came from Hinata's mouth. It seems that Sasuke, Kuin has been exposed. Naruto replied, yes. Hinata's face suddenly turned red, and she said hesitantly, That. Hanabi was taking a bath just now. I saw Sasuke, Kuin hiding in the dark. And then, Naruto blinked dumbfoundedly and asked, then what happened? Hinata's face turned even redder. Naruto had an interesting guess in his heart. Hinata replied, and then, I thought that. Then I beat up Sasuke, Kuin. Hinata's head was very low, and she looked at her 2 toes pitifully. Naruto couldn't hold back his laughter. Puff. He burst out laughing. He asked with interest, and then? Who won? Hinata was full of apology and replied in a low voice. I won. Naruto patted Hinata's head proudly. You are indeed my wife, you are great. Hinata's face turned even redder, and she replied in a low voice, I didn't mean it. I will go and apologize to Sasuke, Kuin. Apologize? Sasuke, Kuin must be so embarrassed that he wants to find a hole to hide in, right? Naruto continued to ask, he didn't fight back? Hinata recalled for a moment and replied seriously, yes, I did. But I was angry at that time, so I directly entered the curse mode and broke his Susanoo armor. And then I couldn't stop it. Naruto suddenly felt that Hinata was even cuter. Hinata moved to Naruto's side and pulled Naruto's clothes. That. Naruto-kun, can you accompany me to see him? I'm alone. I'm a little embarrassed. Go see Sasuke together? Wouldn't Sasuke go crazy? Sasuke would definitely treat him as a joke. With Sasuke's glass heart. Good idea. Okay, I will accompany you to see Sasuke later. Naruto agreed. Naruto glanced at the map to confirm Sasuke's location, but found that Sasuke and Hyuga Hanabi weren't together. Instead, Sasori, Deidara, and Haiden were near Hanabi's location. What's going on? Looking at Sasuke's location again, Mingdu Empire, 100 Herb Hall? Hospital? Damn. Hinata beat Sasuke to the hospital. Naruto suddenly felt that the amount of information was a bit too much. He dialed Haiden's phone and asked, What are you doing? Haiden replied, Sasuke asked me to help protect a little girl. Hiss. Naruto took a deep breath, told Haiden to continue protecting the little girl, and hung up the phone. Hinata. You beat Sasuke to the hospital? Hinata's head lowered even more. I didn't do it on purpose. I thought Sasuke was peeping at Hanabi, and then I suddenly became very angry. I have never felt that kind of feeling before, and the curse seal seemed to be affected and became stronger, so I just hit him a few times. Naruto's round eyes narrowed. He laughed. Is it very satisfying to vent your anger? Do you feel a kind of carefree and unrestrained feeling? Hinata hesitated for a moment, and finally decided to tell the truth, and nodded weakly. Naruto rubbed Hinata's head lovingly, and praised, "You are indeed my wife." She was worried and panicked at this time. Chapter 665. Sasuke, I just heard from Hinata. Before Naruto could finish, Sasuke interrupted, I didn't peep. Naruto held back his laughter and replied, I already helped you explain this to Hinata. I called you this time to apologize on behalf of Hinata. Hinata, Before Naruto could finish, a system prompt sounded. Uchiha Sasuke has hung up. This call is over. Naruto dialed again, Sasuke, I'm apologizing on behalf of Hinata. System prompt, Uchiha Sasuke has hung up. This call is over. Naruto dialed again, Sasuke replied impatiently, No need to apologize, don't bother me. System prompt, Uchiha Sasuke has hung up. Naruto dialed again. Sasuke lowered his voice and said angrily, Naruto, too much. If you want to laugh at me, just say it. Naruto quickly said, I definitely didn't mean that, I just want to thank you for not using time backtrack, otherwise the one hospitalized would be that girl. In the video call, Sasuke replied with a dark face, I didn't go easy, time backtrack doesn't work on that girl. After saying that, the call was hung up again. Sasuke's time backtrack doesn't work on Hinata? Naruto was surprised, why didn't it work? It definitely wasn't because Hinata had a huge amount of chakra cells. In terms of chakra cells, Sasuke and Hinata were about the same. In the past, they were about the same, and now both of them have fused with Hashirama's cells. Then why was it? Naruto looked at Hinata's eyes. There was no change, it was still the same as before, white eyes with blurry pupils. Naruto stood in place and thought about Hinata. Uzumaki Mito had been studying the Tenseigan while the two were chatting. Naruto, I found that there are many different kinds of spiritual fluctuations in the Tenseigan. Naruto returned to his senses and looked at the Tenseigan. It's normal, this Tenseigan is composed of different Byakugan. Independent Sharingan has the remnant consciousness of the original owner, so the Byakugan is not bad. Uzumaki Mito shook her head, no, it's not a remnant, but a complete soul. A complete soul? The soul of the dead soul in the eyes? I think the reason why those puppets are so flexible, Naruto regained his spirit and looked at the huge Tenseigan with his Rinnegan. Chakra injected into the Sharingan, Naruto's eyes lit up with red light, and the three Tomo above also floated. In the next moment, Naruto suddenly saw countless faces in front of his eyes. They were motionless, staring straight at him from all directions. Uzumaki Mito was telling the truth. Naruto saw them, and those faces also came to life. One of them said, He seems to be able to see us. For a time, all the souls were rioting, and their eyes widened as they roared at Naruto. Naruto only felt a chill on the back of his neck, as if someone was blowing cold air. When he turned his head, there was a black thing standing behind him. In an instant, a chill rushed from the heel to the top of his head. Naruto's scalp was numb. What the fuck? Get out. Naruto was shocked, and his spiritual body shook, and the Shinigami's blade slashed through the air. Get out of here. Don't come near me. Naruto's spiritual body slashed several times in the air with the Shinigami's blade. He was really frightened by the black thing that had been silently standing behind him all this time. Then there was a series of screams. The more miserable the screams were, the faster Naruto waved his blade. After a few hundred times, the world was quiet. Naruto looked forward again. A layer of pitch-black smoke-like soul was dissipating. Countless faces were still looking at this side, but compared to the previous ferociousness, there was only sadness left. Bang! When the last cloud of ghost fog dissipated, in the artificial sun world, the puppets that had not been frozen fell to the ground one after another. Some of them were beheaded, and some of them fell to the ground and broke into parts. Uzumaki Mito felt the soul fluctuations weakening with the perception barrier and asked, Did you destroy them all? Hinata also looked at Naruto. Naruto glanced at Hinata and swallowed back the words on the tip of his tongue. Not destroyed, they have all become Buddhas. Seeing that Mito and Hinata didn't understand, Naruto explained, they are all free and went to reincarnate, and after 18 years, they will be heroes again. Hinata touched the surface of the Tensigen and replied, Indeed, I can't feel the sadness, they should have their wish fulfilled, right? Naruto-kun, what did you just say to them? What did I say? I didn't say anything just now, I just cut them all. Of course, this sentence can only be said in his heart. Just now, I told them that the inheritance of the Byakugan is still there, you are the princess of the Hyuga clan, and there is no problem with the bloodline inheritance with you. They were very pleased to hear it, and then waved goodbye to me. Before leaving, they asked me to say hello to you. It was very polite of them. I lied, but don't blame me, who told you to scare me? Naruto secretly squinted his eyes at the Tensigen, and it was very clean. Hinata believed Naruto's words. She replied, Naruto-kun, then help me tell them, let them rest in peace. Naruto looked at the clean Tensigen, and there was no one at this time, she replied, they are all gone, but they must feel your heart. Uzumaki Mito continued to study the Tensigen. She repeated, they are all gone? Naruto nodded affirmatively, they are all gone. Uzumaki Mito looked back at the puppets that were frozen into ice sculptures by Naruto and said, Naruto, you melt the ice and see. The ice melted. Those puppets fell to the ground with a clatter, never to stand up again. Uzumaki Mito pointed to the other frozen puppets and said, touch them all. Naruto took back chakra as he was told. For a while, there was a crashing sound. Heads, big and small, rolled on the ground with a gulyalu sound. Many of them fell directly from the metal rings around the Tensigen. Are they all broken? Naruto frowned. No. Are these puppets related to the souls in the Tensigen? So, those puppets before were all controlled by the souls in the Tensigen. Uzumaki Mito nodded and said, it should be right, this also explains why the curses are so simple, but they can make such flexible attacks. Naruto, I have a bold idea. After these souls leave, can other souls stay here? Naruto's eyes lit up. If it can, then the problem of Edo Tensei will be solved. Who should I try it on? Mito? Naruto looked at Mito. Mito guessed Naruto's thoughts and glared at Naruto. Well, this girl can't be fooled, then. Naruto thought of the research madman Yakushi Kabuto. If Yakushi Kabuto's soul can be stored in the Tensigen, then he can control the puppet's body and continue to study it. Chapter 666. Naruto wanted to stuff Yakushi Kabu's soul into the giant Tensigen. This way, Yakushi Kabu could coexist with the Tensigen in the future. However, the Byakugan that made up the giant Tensigen seemed to only be able to fuse with its original soul. Yakushi Kabu's soul couldn't fit in at all. There's no other way, seems like I can only continue using Edo Tensei. Naruto opened the system, entered the Edo Tensei page, and searched for Yakushi Kabu. The system page showed name, Yakushi Kabu. Gender, male. Management authority, 3-star. Edo Tensei count, 15 times current wealth, 3,528 points. Current status, dead note. This person has purchased the automatic Edo Tensei service after death. Service progress. Service paused. The service paused was changed by Naruto because he wanted to experiment if he could stuff Yakushi Kabu into the Tensigen. With a thought, Naruto changed the service progress to start. Yakushi Kabu's death status changed to waiting in line for resurrection. Waiting in line? Naruto was a bit surprised. This means that someone is performing Edo Tensei. Who is it? Naruto checked. Haku's information came into view. Name. Haku. Gender, male. Management authority, 3-star. Edo Tensei count, 3 times current wealth, 1,528 points. Current status, reviving. Note: this person has purchased the automatic Edo Tensei service after death. Service progress. Frowny face. Death row prisoners application approved. Death row prisoners teleportation. Death row prisoners teleportation complete. Edo Tensei confirmed. Death row prisoner confirmed. Activating the Edo reincarnation formation. Naruto looked at the popping up information on the operation panel. Suddenly, he thought of Haku. He hadn't seen Haku for 3 years. Ever since Haku left the North Pole base, Haku chose to go into hibernation. In other words, Edo Tensei. Naruto remembered that he promised Haku that as long as Haku was willing to work for him, he would help Haku revive Zabuza in the future. Of course, it wasn't unconditional and had to satisfy the principle of equivalent exchange. Naruto looked at the continuously updated control panel and muttered to himself, if I directly end White's Edo Tensei now, I'll have 2 fewer people to revive, although Naruto said that, he did not do so. Instead, he watched Bai's resurrection progress to the end leisurely. When it came to his own promises, he liked to keep them unless there were special circumstances. Moreover, he was curious if Bai could offer a bargaining chip of equal value. System notification: you have received a video call request from Bai. So fast. Looking for him as soon as he was revived? Naruto accepted the call. Bai's image appeared in front of him. He was a little boy with a feminine appearance. No, a girl. Naruto saw that Bai's chest was bulging. Under normal circumstances, the resurrected people would be resurrected according to their appearance in life. For Haku, it could only mean that he or she had set up the resurrection panel himself. After setting up the resurrection menu, the appearance, gender, and height of the resurrected person could be adjusted. Among them, the gender needed to be a specific death row criminal. As for the rest, the system could make adjustments. It's nice to see you again, Master Naruto. 3 years have not left a single trace on your face. Bai was very respectful to Naruto. It was not difficult to understand. After all, everyone was a gentleman when they needed help. Naruto was dissatisfied. No change. Why do I feel like I've become more handsome? Bai was slightly stunned when he heard that. Then, he covered his mouth and laughed. He apologized profusely. At that moment, Bai's voice and smile were exactly like a girl's. Naruto was amazed. After greeting him and making a simple joke, Bai's expression became serious. Master Naruto, I wonder if you can help me revive Zabuza with your current ability? Naruto smiled. You must have not had the time to read the latest news. If you read it, you'll know that I've resurrected 2 people. Bai's face was filled with surprise. Naruto shook his finger, stopped Bai from speaking, and continued, but don't be happy too early. Resurrecting the dead consumed a lot of my energy. You should still remember the rules set at the beginning. Bai understood Naruto's meaning and was about to express his determination. Naruto raised his hand again. Don't rush to promise me anything. Go back and understand the current situation of the world, see what you can do, and then come to me when you understand. Well, that's it for this call. I still have something to do. I look forward to receiving your call next time. What can Bai do? In fact, for the current Naruto, with Bai's strength, he could do almost nothing. But Naruto was still looking forward to it. Isn't the power of love infinite? After Bai's Tensei was completed, Kabuto's Edo Tensei began. Naruto glanced at it and didn't pay any more attention to it. He said to Uzumaki Mito, who continued to study the Tensigen. Although it failed this time, it also pointed us in a direction. Next, if we can figure out how this thing stores souls, then we can make a special container to store souls in the future. In that case, it can also solve the problem of Edo Tensei. Uzumaki Mito replied. It's in the process of analysis, and there is no hindrance at the moment. Wait, why did those souls come back? The souls came back. Naruto once again injected chakra into Rinnegan, and then saw faces condensing from nothing. On their faces, there was a look of fear. A thought flashed in Naruto's mind. Fortunately, Hinata left, or how to explain it. Really, alas, they came back. Are they making trouble? Naruto asked Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito replied. Just now, they didn't make trouble when you asked. Naruto. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Even the ghosts in this world are so realistic. Naruto, I have a bold idea. Naruto has become accustomed to Uzumaki Mito's bold ideas. Tell me about it. Uzumaki Mito, I remember you have a lot of Sharingan, right? Naruto nodded. Uzumaki Mito was talking about a batch of Sharingan that Naruto got from Obito. Because there are too many to use, and not everyone can use Sharingan, so there are still a lot of Sharingan left. Uzumaki Mito raised her hand and pulled Naruto's clothes, and said pitifully, Can you lend me those eyes to play with? I want to try to form Rinnegan with Sharingan. Forming Rinnegan with Sharingan? Naruto suddenly realized. He knew what Uzumaki Mito was going to do. This girl wants to form a huge Rinnegan according to the method of forming Byakugan into Tenseigan. Can it work? Naruto doesn't know, but it's interesting. How many do you need? Uzumaki Mito replied, This huge Tenseigan is made up of 1,500 Byakugan. 1,500 Byakugan? So you mean 1,500 Sharingan? Uzumaki Mito nodded again and again. Naruto checked the inventory, and there are 1,498 ordinary Sharingan, not including Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan. In other words, it's just enough. How sure are you? Uzumaki Mito shook her head and said, I'm not sure at the moment, I haven't figured it out yet. Naruto took a deep breath. Then wait until you are sure, and then we will talk about it. Uzumaki Mito nodded, and then said, Naruto, if we form a huge Rinnegan, can that huge Rinnegan also summon their souls back? Naruto didn't know, and casually replied, maybe. Uzumaki Mito said again, then can the huge Rinnegan and the huge Tenseigan be merged together? If so, what effect will it have? Naruto pinched Uzumaki Mito's face. That will have to wait until you merge the huge Rinnegan. Chapter 667. Come on, don't hide, let's talk about how to get along in the future. Naruto covered the entire Tenseigan with his spiritual power and pulled all 1,500 souls into the same spiritual world. Yes, 1,500 souls. Originally, Naruto thought that with each pair of eyes representing one person, there would be 750 people in Tenseigan, but there were twice as many. Does each eye here represent a person? If that's the case, the Sharingan he has is not enough. Because most of the Sharingan in his hand are pairs. Don't just stand there, sit down, didn't I prepare a seat for you? The spiritual world built by Naruto is very similar to the layout of a movie theater. The seats are next to each other, row by row. It was red and had leather seats. It looked very high-end. And Naruto is standing on the stand where the big screen is. Hearing Naruto's words, the souls exchanged glances with each other and sat down hesitantly. Naruto nodded with satisfaction. Very good. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. You can call me Naruto Naruto. Naruto means emperor. The reason why I'm called this is because the whole continent has been unified by me. Hearing Naruto's self-introduction, many souls showed a strange expression. The way they looked at Naruto also changed. Naruto continued, Secondly, I am the one chosen by Hagoromo Sennin. Do you see my Rinnegan? This eye is also called Hagoromo Sennin's eyes. It is enough to prove that Hagoromo Sennin appreciates me. What would Hagoromo Sennin feel if he heard this shameless sentence? However, the reaction of the audience was very good. All the souls stared at Naruto's eyes with a hint of respect. Naruto continued, I don't know if you know, your ancestor Otsutsuki Hamura is the younger brother of Hagoromo Sennin. Hagoromo Sennin's real name is Otsutsuki Hagoromo. In other words, we are also family. So, you don't have to be too reserved in front of me. Everything that happened before was a misunderstanding. Please don't take it to heart. Hearing Naruto's words, the ghosts relaxed a lot. One of the elders asked, Then why is the Tenseigan in your hands? Naruto looked in the direction of the voice. He looked at the old man with a transparent body and said kindly, "This question is really sad. Before I answer that question, I would like to ask something. You live in the Tensigen. Can you control the Tensigen?" The old man replied honestly, "No, we can only listen to the orders of the owner of the Tensigen, and then execute the orders as puppets." Unable to control the Tensigen? Naruto had a preliminary understanding of the functions of these ghosts. Then he said bitterly, "Then you must not know that the person who controls the Tensigen of this generation has already gone astray. He wants to use the power of Tensigen to control the fall of the moon and destroy the world. He thinks that the world created by the Rikudo is wrong. But now the war on the ground has calmed down, and everything is developing in a good way. Destroy the world. That's the development of the world. In this life, Tonari Otsutsuki hasn't done that yet." The old man heard Naruto's words and pondered. Destroy the world. There is a record in the clan. When the ancestor passed away, he said that if the world created by the Rikudo deviates from the norm, the world will be destroyed. Naruto picked up the Shinigami's edge and scratched his head with the hilt. Did it deviate? The old man's words were stuck. The words he wanted to say were swallowed back. No, it didn't deviate. Naruto put away the Shinigami's edge with satisfaction. I definitely didn't mean to threaten you. Please don't misunderstand. Well, let's go into today's topic and talk about getting along with each other in the future. Now, I have received this Tensigen, and I have received you. You can still do your previous work. I definitely don't mean to enslave you. Do you understand? The faces of the wandering souls were as black as the bottom of a pot. But looking at the sword in Naruto's hand, they didn't dare to say anything. Naruto continued, How to control this Tensigen, do you know? Naruto shook the Shinigami's edge in his hand. The faces of the wandering souls below were even darker. The old man sighed. Minusama, it's not that we don't cooperate, but if you want to control the Tensigen, you must have the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan. The bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan? The ancestors of the Otsutsuki clan are in his body. Will he lack the bloodline? The smile on Naruto's face was particularly bright. Don't worry about this. The Uzumaki clan is also a blood relative of the Otsutsuki clan. Seeing that the old man didn't answer, Naruto smiled and said, I'm not a demon. If you are willing to cooperate with me, I will give each of you enough freedom, and I won't let you do things you don't want to do. Our relationship can be transformed from the original master and servant relationship to an employer-employee relationship. The so-called employer-employee relationship is that you work for me, and I pay you a salary. How about it? The old man shook his head. Freedom is no longer important to us. We have existed for too long. We have seen what should be seen, and experienced what should be experienced. Naruto rolled his eyes and interrupted. Forget it. Your experience? Naruto snorted. Your experience is marriage, birth, old age, illness, and death. Then farming and fighting wars. Let's not talk about anything else. Have you ever watched a movie? The old man was dumbfounded. What movie? Naruto raised the corner of his mouth and looked back at the big screen behind him. Well, in order to promote our friendship, I'll treat everyone to a movie today. Naruto snapped his fingers, and the surrounding lights dimmed. The screen lit up, and the first part of The Last Swordswoman was played. And it was a virtual reality movie. After the movie, it was time for a virtual reality game. The movie theater scene also turned into a game hall. Gambling, role-playing, fighting. After a few rounds, the scene became lively. Then it turned into a bar. Passionate dance music played, and a group of ghosts and NPCs arranged by Naruto swayed together. As for drinking, it was even simpler. The anesthesia was directly replaced by illusion. When everyone was playing happily, Naruto picked up the microphone and the music stopped. How is it? Freedom is very precious. What you are seeing is just simple entertainment. The freedom I give you is the freedom to let you live again. Your puppet bodies will be upgraded, and I will give you the right to speak. Not only that, you will be able to feel everything that a living person can feel. You can use a new body to take a walk in the sunset, or gather together to count the stars, and then welcome the sunrise together. Chapter 668. Is it really possible to reason with him? If people are really so easy to talk to, then they can unify the world with just their mouth. Naruto looked at the group of wandering souls with uncertain faces under the stage, and Rinnegan's Sharingan was silently activated. The red light in his eyes became more and more intense, vivid, flowing like blood. Agree to my request. I won't enslave you, nor will I make you do things you don't want to do. You will have a new life, and you will be paid for your labor. Under the influence of Rinnegan, all the wandering souls' eyes began to blur. The light of Tenseigan was also a little stronger, but because they didn't feel Naruto's malice, it calmed down. It seemed that the confusion in the eyes of the old man with the highest reputation gradually disappeared. This doesn't mean that he woke up from Naruto's genjutsu, but he has accepted Naruto's statement, and from the bottom of his heart, he is completely convinced. This old man is willing to make this deal with you, but we don't know how to control Tenseigan. Only the clan leader of the branch family is qualified to know the way to control Tenseigan. You don't know? Naruto looked at the old man again. He asked, "Is there no former clan leader among you?" The old man replied, "In order to prevent the Tenseigan from going out of control, the soul of the clan leader after death cannot enter here." Naruto's eyes swept over all the wandering souls. Naruto can read from the spiritual fluctuations of these people, and these people are not lying. Is that so? Naruto was slightly disappointed. Then he said, "Then let's not talk about this. Come. Let's sign this labor contract first." Naruto's thought moved, and a stack of contracts appeared out of thin air, then floated in front of each wandering soul. This is a long-term employment contract. The contract period is until this Tenseigan is destroyed or leaves my hands. The specific task needs to be at my disposal. Of course, you have the right to refuse, and you will not be punished. Then take a look at this list. Naruto issued another document, Armed Puppet Transformation Price Catalog. Increase Simulated Tactile Skin, 100 points. Increase spiritual power to control simulated vocal cords, 100 points. Body modification, 100 points for female body modification, including breast enlargement, waist slimming, and butt lifting. Male body adjustment, 100 plus 50 points, including muscle shaping, secondary sexual organs installation, absolute simulation, 100% realistic touch. Armed modification, 100 points for aluminum alloy skeleton, 500 points for titanium alloy skeleton. Weapons mounted on armed puppets. At the same time, there was a small card pinned to the document. Each person could enjoy a loan of 1,000 points. The interest rate is 100 points, 0.4% per day. Naruto continued, "The so-called points are what you earn from me through your labor, compared to money. Trust me, my points are much more precious than money. Also, it doesn't matter if you don't have any points. Did you see that loan card? You can borrow from the bank with this card. Of course, the most important thing is that since it's borrowed money, it must be repaid on time. That's why you need to be careful when you borrow money. Do what you can." Naruto was talking non-stop, and the people below were listening to him in a daze. After a while, Naruto finally stopped. "Okay, I've said what I should say and what I should say. Now it's your turn to sign. You just need to brand your spirit imprint on it. This is a soul contract. We are absolutely equal to each other in all terms. Both sides cannot violate the contract. Once violated, the rules will erase one side." After listening to Naruto's words, the old man carefully read the contract again. The others whispered to each other. Then, they looked at the old man hesitantly. They seemed to be waiting for the old man to express his opinion. The old man's expression was uncertain after reading it. The red glow in Naruto's eyes became brighter. "If you have any questions, you can ask me. Just as I promised, he said. With this contract, I can't make you do anything you don't like. Finally, the straw that broke the camel's back worked. The old man raised his hand and pressed it on the contract. When he raised his hand again, a special imprint was left on it. It was the word, Emperor. Then the contract burned. When the contract burned out, the same imprint appeared in the center of the old man's forehead. Naruto smiled sincerely and said, "Believe me, you made a very right choice. What are the others waiting for?" The others looked at the word on the old man's forehead. Naruto explained, "This soul imprint is only part of the contract, and it won't bring you any harm." "Look, I have one too." Naruto raised his right hand, and there was an extra line on his right hand, like an unfinished line. The appearance is different, but the effect is the same. Seeing this, the others no longer hesitated and left their soul imprints on the contract. The pattern on Naruto's arm extended. Finally, it formed a complete Tensigen. At the moment when the imprint was completed, Naruto felt that there seemed to be a connection between him and the huge Tensigen. Naruto tried to control the Tensigen, but it seemed that he couldn't do it. Naruto suppressed the thoughts in his heart and decided to explore it later. Looking up at the wandering souls of the Otsutsuki clan, he said, "Well, we will be a family from now on. I will make basic optimizations for your puppets. You can submit an application to me separately for any functions you need. Of course, we can talk about it later. After all, the strengthening can't be completed in a day. Finally, I will remind you once again to spend wisely. If you can't pay back the money you borrowed from the Point Bank, it will directly affect your credibility assessment. And the credibility assessment will affect all aspects of your future life. For example, housing applications, such as borrowing again, and even salary payment." In the end, Naruto gave everyone a bright smile, and then disappeared. Inside Naruto's body, Otsutsuki Kagaya said with disdain, "Troublesome, wasting so much time talking to a group of wandering souls, this eye is wasted on you." Naruto replied, "Although the power of dojutsu can enslave them, a fake will always be a fake. Once there is a slight fault in this eye, these guys will immediately betray us. This is also the reason why you ended up like this. You must know that the power of the human heart is the greatest power. And it's not that I didn't use this eye, I left a deep hint in their hearts. This is not a forced effect, but the effect is much greater." Otsutsuki Kagaya listened to Naruto's words, thought for a while, and shook his head again. "So what if they betray us? Ants are ants after all." Naruto said seriously, "Maybe these 1,500 wandering souls are nothing, but what if other mistakes are added? 1,000-mile dike collapses because of an ant's nest." Otsutsuki stared at Naruto and asked curiously, "Who taught you all this?" Naruto looked at Otsutsuki Kagaya and replied, "No one taught me, but I have been reflecting on it recently. I have repeatedly thought about the reasons for your failure, and then I have a lot of insights." "Using me as a negative example?" Otsutsuki Kagaya's face darkened. Naruto felt that something was wrong and quickly shut up and changed the topic. Well, let's talk about this first. I'm going to study the mark on my wrist. Slipped away. Chapter 669. On the second day after signing the labor contract with the 1,500 wandering souls, Naruto gathered all the puppets of the wandering souls together. As far as the eye could see, there were rows and rows. Except for a group of people who were working in the castle who were dressed differently, the others were like pairs of crows, pitch black, meaning pitch black. There was also a naked, shy girl who covered her body with her hands. When Naruto saw this, he blushed and threw a coat over. To be honest, he was the one who took off the girl's clothes. Yesterday, he was frozen in the ice sculpture and forgot about it. Today, when he saw it, he remembered. Sin. Ahem. Before ordering the puppets for you, I have 2 samples to show you. Who wants to try these 2 new bodies? Naruto took out the 2 puppets that he designed last night. A man and a woman, lifelike. Lying there, they looked like living people sleeping. My lord, our puppets actually require special runes in order for us to possess them. The girl who took Naruto's clothes replied to Naruto with her mental power. The moment the mental power connected, Naruto also saw the real appearance of the girl. The girl was 2 heads taller than the maid puppet, about 1.6 meters tall. She had delicate features and an oval face, but her eyes were closed. She gave people the impression that she was blind. In fact, this was the case. When the children on the moon reached a certain age, they had to dig out their eyes. Then they would practice a special mind's eye technique to see things. Don't worry, I have learned all the seals on the puppet. As long as you are willing to try, I can make this puppet suitable for you. When the girl heard this, the worry between her eyebrows dissipated, and she quickly replied, "Then I am willing to try." The girl's words awakened the others, and they also expressed their opinions. The puppets made by Naruto were too real. This made the people who were puzzled by the armed puppet transformation price catalog suddenly understand. Don't worry. One by one, this old man will go and check if there is any danger. The venerable old man among the wandering souls spoke, but this time, no one listened to him. The old man was almost stepped on. The old man's clothes were also different from these people. It was obvious that he was not a combat type, but more like a butler. Naruto raised his hand, and the girl directly chose the one he had stripped naked. As for the man, he chose the one closest to him. Get up, open your eyes, and use your new vision to experience this world. Naruto called out. The girl's eyelashes fluttered. It opened slightly and closed again. She was still not used to losing her eyes for such a long time. I heard the sound of water. With a thought, the girl's vocal cords vibrated and she made a sound. Then the girl heard her own voice. Surprised, he asked, "I can really speak?" The surprise caused the gap in her eyes to widen. The girl grasped this feeling and gradually familiarized herself with how to control her eyes. Then, she saw the world and Naruto for real. Indescribable joy made the girl's face smile. "Sir, you look better in the real world than in the spiritual world." Naruto smiled and said, "Really? You are the same. This body suits you very well. Just change your appearance a bit and it will be perfect." The girl's smile became even brighter. The young man's puppet on the side also moved. However, he didn't have the beauty of a girl. Instead, he sat up like a zombie. Then it began to run and jump. Is this really a puppet? This is a miracle. It feels exactly the same as when it was alive. The other puppets saw the scene in front of them clearly from a unique perspective. Then they began to quarrel. "Let me do it. I want to try it too." Naruto found the opportunity to advertise. "Yesterday, I saw that everyone's reaction wasn't very strong, so I went back and reflected. I felt that you probably didn't understand what I meant, so I made these 2 puppets. Now, I believe that you should fully understand the meaning of that list. I'm definitely not lying. After you switch to a new puppet, you will truly experience a brand new human life." Then, everyone had 10 seconds to experience the new body. 10 seconds wasn't enough for many people, but there were too many wandering souls. In order to shorten the time, this was the only way. 2 hours later, Naruto finally let all the wandering souls experience it. "Okay, if you want to have your own body, then come to me to register." How much does it cost to make a puppet like this?" "Not much, 1,000 points will do." "What? You want to order a 1,000-point puppet?" "Well, a loan is fine, but you have to consider whether you have the ability to repay it." You said that you are willing to accept any mission as long as you can exchange it for a loan?" "Okay, as long as you follow my orders, I guarantee that you will be able to exchange the points for the loan within a year." "Go next. You also want to order a 1,000-point puppet? And you are willing to follow any orders? Okay, no problem. Next." Naruto created 150 doppelgangers and very efficiently obtained 1,500 orders for 1,000 points. If the Great Snow Mountain Research Institute had an annual sales champion, it would undoubtedly be Naruto. 1,500 orders for 1,000 points. That would add up to 1,500,000 points. Although it was a debt, who would dare to not repay it? All the orders were signed. Before Naruto left, the girl whose clothes were stripped by Naruto called out to Naruto. "Sir, my name is Gue Yezi. Otsutsuki Gue Yezi." Naruto praised, "What a good name." Gue Yezi's spirit closed her eyes and bit her lip. "Sir, can I serve you by your side in the future? My skills are not weak. Gue Yezi will do her best to protect you." Chapter 670. Mingdu Empire. Naruto received news from Baikatang that Sasuke had been discharged from the hospital. He went to Sasuke's residence. "How are you? Are you still at home? That injury isn't serious, is it? Do you want me to treat you?" Naruto didn't enter the yard, but his voice had already penetrated Sasuke's ears through the open window. The moment he heard Naruto's voice, Sasuke's face became gloomy. The emotion in the middle was not excessive at all. Like a glass cup that was rapidly expanding and contracting, crack, it shattered. "Huh? Are you going on a long trip in this dress?" Naruto walked into the yard and saw Sasuke, and appeared beside Sasuke. Sasuke seemed to be doing the final inspection. His left hand was holding a shiny black tochi. His right hand was holding a square cloth. This is Sasuke's new sword. It's not a Kusanagi sword, but it's much better than the original one. Itachi was unwilling to hand over the Koto Amatsukami Sharingan. "I found the whereabouts of the eye by following his summon beast." "Koto Amatsukami Sharingan?" Naruto nodded. Uchiha Sasuke wanted to protect Uchiha Itachi, and one of the conditions Naruto offered was Koto Amatsukami. "You found the whereabouts of his little crow. Do you need me to send you there? It's very convenient for me to teleport." Sasuke proudly refused. "No, you just need to keep your promise. By the way, you Tion may not have noticed that Obito has been frequently appearing outside Itachi's cell recently." After saying that, Uchiha Sasuke put his Tachi back into its scabbard and set off. Summoning the dragon eagle, he sat on its back and flew away. Didn't Naruto know that Obito was in contact with Uchiha Itachi? How was that possible? Within the territory of the Mingdu Empire, even if there was a pile of ant poop on the ground, Naruto would be able to find out which ant pooped it. Naruto waved goodbye to Sasuke. "Thank you for the news. Have a safe trip." Sasuke's face darkened and he didn't reply. On the other hand, the dragon eagle let out a cry as if it was responding to Naruto. Meanwhile, outside Itachi's cell, Obito stood there with a worried expression. Uchiha Itachi felt the arrival of Obito and transmitted a message with his spiritual power. "How is it? Have you asked clearly? Even if I may deceive you, Kakashi wouldn't join forces with a renegade ninja like me to deceive you, right? Linjin is such a poor girl. I loved you so much, but you forgot about me." Obito stood outside the cell with his head down and replied with his spiritual power, "The death of Yondaime-sama Naruto and his wife. Is it really because of me?" Itachi replied, "The moment the Nine Tails human pillar force gives birth is the moment when the seal of the human pillar force is at its weakest. The Yondaime-sama couple secretly gave birth to a child. If it weren't for you, who would have the ability to take away the Nine Tails?" However, although Yondaime-sama Naruto is your most respected sensei, but since you dared to lay your hands on his wife, it shows how disappointed you are in him. Linjin's death is also because of his incompetence. Obito clenched his fists tightly. His pupils trembled, and his expression was a little crazy. "No. How could I do that to Uzumaki Kushina? She is sensei's favorite," Itachi's voice sounded. "Then, what made you do it? What is the real you like? Aren't you curious? And do you really think that Naruto will let you go just because he sympathizes with you? You killed his parents, and you made him an orphan. I don't know if you still remember the resentment of 9 Tails, but Naruto treated you. It should be the same. He didn't kill you because he wanted you to be a dog that can be ordered at will. Now that I think about it, how pathetic are you now? Obito's pupils trembled even more violently, and his expression became even more distorted. The Uchiha clan was influenced by the Sharingan, and they were extremely emotional. Once they found that they were betrayed, the suppressed emotions could destroy all their reason. Moreover, he had been hesitating for a long time. Itachi's spiritual power came again. What are you still hesitating for? Do you still want to be a dog? Obito raised his trembling hand and touched the cell where Itachi was. His hand pressed on the metal wall, leaving a deep palm print. Itachi encouraged him, "Let me out, I have a way to remove the dojutsu on you. At that time, you will find your true self." The space around Uchiha Obito rippled, and in the next moment, Obito disappeared from his spot. In the cell, Itachi, whose eyes were bandaged, had a cold expression. Trash. The next moment, Obito, who had left, suddenly appeared in Itachi's cell. With a ferocious expression, he stared at Itachi and scolded, "What did you call me?" Itachi's expression froze, and the corner of his mouth rose, revealing a smile. "I thought you left." Obito raised his hand to catch Itachi. Itachi replied with his spiritual power, "But since you have made a decision, there is no hurry to take me away. First, find a way to get my Rinnegan back from Naruto. You must want to resurrect the woman you love, right? Then go and get my Rinnegan back." Obito replied, "The Gedo Rinnegan Tensei Jutsu requires a pair of Rinnegan. It's useless to get your Rinnegan back." Itachi replied, "Someone has a way to awaken your Rinnegan. And I will take you to see that person." Obito stared at Itachi lying on the hospital bed. He gritted his teeth. The space rippled into a vortex, and Obito left. At the same time, Naruto leisurely watched the live broadcast. As for the conversation between the two with spiritual power, Naruto also completely monitored through Obito's identity card. "Why didn't I find Itachi so talkative in the past?" "You're quite eloquent," Naruto muttered in a voice that only he could hear. The language was Chinese, which no one in this world could understand. With another raise of his hand, Danzo's arm was summoned. On the arm, a pair of scarlet fox vertical pupils were still standing there. Uchiha Itachi's eyes, one Sharingan and one Rinnegan, looked at Naruto. Naruto raised his hand and flicked the Rinnegan and said, "You are a troublemaker." The Rinnegan was flicked and slammed closed. The Sharingan next to it was frightened and closed by itself. Naruto shook Danzo's arm and shouted, "Open it for me, or I will cook you and feed you to the turtle." The eyelids of the Rinnegan opened a slit. Naruto turned his hand and slammed it on the ground. "Come on. It's your turn, little Itachi Sharingan. The son should pay his father's debt, and you should be punished for doing wrong." Chapter 671. In the Mingdu Empire, everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Naruto's parents and Hinata's parents worked together to organize Naruto's wedding. Naruto gave the task of making the puppets to the 3 little ones. According to Naruto's request, the puppets had to be made before the wedding to act as a front. "Big brother Naruto, your wedding is going to be held in the sky?" Naruto nodded. "Yes, the palace will rise to the sky on the day of the wedding, and the stone steps will be connected to it." Little Gunny clapped her hands. "Then I have an idea. Add 1,500 sets of wings and install them on the skeleton, it will look even cooler." Naruto thought for a moment. The first and second divisions were supposed to be in the sky. However, the first and second divisions were supposed to be there to show off their might, so it was not suitable to use them as servants. "That's a good idea. But the wings don't have enough storage, right? If we make them in a hurry, you will be under a lot of pressure." Little Gunny shook her head. "No problem. In the past, it was always Big Brother Naruto who helped us. This time, We will also help Big Brother Naruto to make the wedding look good. Little Gunny was really cute. Naruto rubbed the little girl's head and looked at the other two. Big Gunny and Little Gunny nodded. Then we'll have to trouble you. By the way, the wings will be installed on metal suits. This time, it will be a public rental. If they want to use it in the future, they will have to buy it. Little Gunny's eyes sparkled as she gave a thumbs up. No problem. Gunny said, by the way, that Asta you brought back from the land of ghosts is improving very quickly. If she can help, it will greatly shorten the time. Asta, Naruto hesitated. Naruto was not an idiot. He knew Asta's feelings for him. Under such circumstances, asking her to help him with the wedding, wasn't that a bit too much? Seeing that Naruto was not saying anything, Gunny asked, is there a problem with her? If there's a problem, I'll stop her talisman class. If she continues to learn, she will soon understand the core peripheral technology. Naruto shook his head and said, no need, no need. She's fine. If she wants to learn, let her learn. You guys can do as you see fit. I'll leave the task to you guys. Then, Naruto changed the topic. If the other students can do it, we can let them try it out. Gu and I pondered for a moment. As for the others, with the help of the super brain system, they can still pass the basic knowledge. But for the advanced knowledge, there are few. By the way, there's a girl who's been learning pretty fast recently. It's called a scale. You're the one who brought it back. Is there a problem with her? She will be able to access the core technology in about a month. Scales? Naruto was stunned. This girl usually looks so dull. I thought it was because she didn't like to attend classes. I didn't expect her to be so passionate about learning. As for her, if she wants to learn, then let her learn. Naruto's heart suddenly flashed with uneasiness. The sky outside was also covered by a layer of dark clouds. Naruto was shocked. What's going on? This uneasiness. Something bad is going to happen. There was a knock on the door. Obito's voice came. Naruto, Hinata said you're here. Obito? Is the uneasiness because of Obito? Naruto replied, come in. Didn't you just teleport here? Hearing Naruto's words, Obito walked in. He laughed. I know there's a girl here. If I suddenly come in and see something I shouldn't see, I'll be beheaded. Obito smiled mischievously. At this time, Obito didn't look as crazy as he did yesterday. Guenai was angry. He stared at Obito coldly and said, are you joking with me? Obito's expression froze. He waved his hand and said, no. Guni's expression became even colder. Other than me, there are only those two left. Who do you think you're joking with? Who do you mean? Obito looked at the other two maidservants for help, but the maidservants acted as if they didn't see anything. The next moment, Guenai kicked Obito in the face. Obito's body turned invisible, and the attack passed through. Why is Guenai so angry? It's simple. Naruto is getting married, and she has to arrange the wedding for Naruto, and the bride is not her. Do you think you can escape like this? The spatial barrier around Guni's body was activated, and a net was spread out. Another kick. This time, Obito took a solid hit. He was sent flying. Guenai was also strengthened by Hashirama's cells. Because of the problem of specialization, his taijutsu is only higher than Obito's. As for the spatial barrier, it was developed by Uzumaki Mito after seeing Obito's ability. It's not targeted, just interested. 5 minutes later, Obito crawled back pitifully. Guenai snorted and didn't attack again. Obito looked at Naruto. Naruto smiled and said, oh, you should be careful even if you're joking. I don't care, but a girl's reputation is not something you can talk about. Well, you're here for me? What's the matter? Obito replied, well, I want to borrow your Rinnegan to play with. Rinnegan? Naruto looked at Obito. Is this Obito's decision? You want to borrow my Rinnegan? Obito nodded. Naruto smiled again. Sure, it's just sitting there. You can play with it. With that, Naruto waved his hand, and Danzo's arm appeared in Naruto's hand. Come here, I'll help you transplant it. Obito was stunned. This? I can do it myself. I've done it before. Naruto replied, how can your skill catch up to mine? Come on, I won't charge you today. Naruto continued to look at Obito. Finally, Obito came over. Well, just raise your neck, because it'll be quick. Naruto's smile suddenly made Obito nervous. He looked at the chakra scalpel in Naruto's hand. He suddenly felt that the knife could slash his neck from any angle at any moment. Obito looked at Gu and I again. If the spatial barrier was activated again, then a drop of sweat dripped from Obito's forehead. Naruto asked curiously, is it hot in the room? Why are you sweating? Obito replied awkwardly, maybe it's because I've been weak recently. Naruto clicked his tongue a few times. Raise your head, we're about to start the operation. Obito nodded his head and raised his head. The operation began. Gouging out the eye, cutting it with a chakra scalpel, nerve fiber surgery, replacing it with a new eyeball, and pressing it in again. A healing spell was cast. From the beginning to the end, Naruto took less than a minute. As for Obito's original eye, Naruto stuffed it into Danzo's arm. Well, how do you feel? Obito looked at Danzo's arm. Naruto put Danzo's arm back in the pot. You can exchange it with the Rinnegan after you've played with it. What, you don't think it's worth it to exchange the Sharingan for the Rinnegan? It's good enough that I didn't take your rent. Chapter 672. Naruto watched Obito leave. From the beginning to the end, the smile on Naruto's face was always very kind, but the people in the room only felt a bone-chilling coldness. It was as if a steel knife was constantly moving around the neck, sometimes far and sometimes close, and from time to time a few hairs would be shaved off. In the sky above the Mingdu Empire, the clouds rolled, and it suddenly snowed in the dog days of summer. The heavy snow covered every corner of the Mingdu Empire, and even extended to further places. At this moment, the entire continent felt that something was wrong. Naruto-san? Little Gunny called out softly. Naruto looked at little Gunny with a smile, and the little Gunny directly snorted. Naruto-san, don't be like this, I'm a little scared. The smile on Naruto's face disappeared, and the snow in the sky became heavier, but the temperature in the room recovered a lot. Gunny looked at the place where Obito disappeared. Is there a problem with Obito? Then do you want to get rid of him? Naruto looked up at the sky, and his eyes seemed to pass through the roof, looking directly at the sky. Let him be. What's fake can never be real. This time let him go as compensation for all his contributions. Rewards and punishments are clear, merits and demerits are not offset. Good. Naruto retracted his gaze and lowered his head. Well, no matter what happens, the wedding will be held according to the deadline. Gunny nodded. Naruto raised his hand and touched little Gunny's head. Sorry to trouble you, I need to find a place to calm down. Naruto's Rinsei Sharingan flashed red, and he suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in a world of ice and snow. This was not the country of snow, nor the North Pole. This was the world of ice and snow created by Kaguya. Preserved egg, have we been exposed? Why do I feel that things are not going well recently? Naruto sat down on the ice mountain, and the ice automatically condensed into a throne. The atmosphere of the entire ice mountain changed inexplicably. A noble aura that was independent of the world spread in all directions. When the mountain remained motionless, all the mountains bowed before it. The mountains that were taller than this ice peak were moving strangely, constantly shrinking until they were lower than this ice peak. Naruto felt the changes in his surroundings, but he did not care. He waited for Preserved Egg's reply. Preserved Egg did not care about this and replied, I don't feel any hostility from the will of the world. I don't think so. Maybe he just wants to seal Huey away. After all, sealing Kagaya was the only fate written by the world's will in that old man's life chart. How about swallowing that life star first? We can hold the wedding after we've digested that life star. At most, we'll wait for 10,000 years, or 1,000,000 years. After digesting that life-bearing planet, 1,000,000 years will be nothing more than a snap of a finger to you. When the time comes, you will be able to revive Hinata with just a thought. Naruto rolled his eyes. How can that be the same? After fusing with the world's will, I'll know if I'm still me or not. Besides, didn't you say that there's a possibility of failure? Preserved Egg didn't speak. In Preserved Egg's view, the possibility of failure was almost negligible. But Naruto didn't seem to allow even the possibility of failure to exist. The snow in the ice and snow space was getting heavier, and the temperature was getting lower. Naruto sat on the throne and stared blankly ahead. At this time, the snow continued to fall in the ninja world. Naruto's consciousness merged into the ice and snow, and the world covered by ice and snow was panoramic, including the ice and snow space, and also the ninja world. Naruto looked at Obito, who was also looking at the ice and snow in a daze. He also saw Hinata Ninji, who was cultivating with a watermelon head in the deep mountains and forests. He saw the eyeless Otsutsuki Tonari was behind Hinata Ninji. Huh. This guy really came down from the moon. Seeing Otsutsuki Tonari, Naruto's ice-cold face finally changed. Snowflakes fluttered in the wind, falling on the treetops and on Otsutsuki Tonari's cheeks. Otsutsuki Tonari raised his head and looked at the sky. His eyeless eyes were closed, but he gave people the feeling that he was looking at something. It's just, although his spiritual sense was extraordinary at this time, it was still too small compared to Naruto's. He was just an ant like everyone else, but with an extra pair of wings. Ninji, why is it suddenly snowing? Xiao Li was originally frog jumping, but when the snow fell, he began to stare at the snow in a daze. Ninji opened his Byakugan and looked around. Under his Byakugan vision, the snow was still snow, and there was nothing unusual. The snow in winter somehow turned into summer. I don't know, but this snow makes me hate it. After listening to Ninji's words, Xiao Li suddenly grinned neurotically. The harder the environment, the greater the significance of training. Let me conquer this snow. I decided to frog jump to the top of the mountain in the snow. As he spoke, he placed his hands behind his back and began to hop around in the direction of a distant mountain peak. In the eyes of Naruto, he was like a teddy bear that had taken an aphrodisiac, a shocking sight. Xiao Li's speed was very fast, and he jumped far away from Hinata Ninji. Ninji, I'll wait for you at the top of the mountain. Naruto, Hinata Ninji, Otsutsuki Tonari. After Xiao Li walked away, Otsutsuki Tonari's mouth slightly raised. The opportunity he was waiting for had come. I have a way to undo the curse on you, as long as you are willing to pay a price. Otsutsuki Tonari walked quietly to Hinata Ninji. Hinata Ninji was shocked and took a stance to guard against Otsutsuki Tonari. Who are you? Otsutsuki Tonari stood there with his eyes closed, calm and calm. I'm the one who came to change your fate. You've always wanted to get rid of the slave mark on your body, right? I can help you achieve what you want. Hinata Ninji opened his Byakugan and glared at Otsutsuki Tonari. Do you think I will believe this nonsense? Even the people of the main family have no way to undo the caged bird. Otsutsuki Tonari smiled and said, main family, it's really a nostalgic name. You're right, they really have no way to undo it, whether it's in the sky or underground. But the branch family knows this method. After sacrificing who knows how many lives, we finally found a way to get rid of this curse mark. Then, we won a battle. But unfortunately, at that time, the main family's foundation was too strong, plus, there was a stupid mole. After a short victory, we were defeated again. The defeated branch family had their eyes gouged out. At this point, the curse was abolished. All the people of the branch family will have their eyes gouged out when they grow to a certain age. Otsutsuki Tonari suddenly opened his eyes. The dark and empty eye sockets without eyeballs made the handsome face suddenly ferocious. Hinata Ningji raised his hand and punched Otsutsuki Tonari. Otsutsuki Tonari made a seal with one hand, and Hinata Ningji had a splitting headache, and chakra directly scattered and knelt on the ground. He squeezed out a question from his teeth in disbelief. "You can control the caged bird? You are a member of the main family." Otsutsuki Tonari's other hand fell on Hinata Ningji's head. "No, I'm a member of the branch family." Naruto looked at the scene in front of him, and Preserved Egg shared his vision. He couldn't help but be curious, still not going to make a move. Chapter 673. I won't do it. Hinata's Byakugan has never evolved into a Tensigan. This is a good opportunity, I decided to observe in secret. If I can understand what's going on, I can give one more gift at the wedding. After listening, Preserved Egg's mood didn't fluctuate at all, and he said, "Oh." The heavy snow continued to fall, and Naruto continued to stare. In the heavy snow, Otsutsuki Tonari stopped casting, and Hinata Ningji's head didn't hurt anymore. "Come with me, I'll help you unlock the curse seal on your body." Hinata Ningji was about to resist, and Otsutsuki Tonari cast jutsu again. This time, the time was twice as long as before. Hinata Ningji rolled on the ground in pain. "Next time, if you don't answer me, I'll destroy your eyes." Otsutsuki Tonari looked down at Hinata Ningji indifferently. Looking down from above without eyes, the pressure it brought was even heavier and more terrifying than looking down with eyes. Hinata Ningji was silent. Tonari Otsutsuki said, "Do you feel the shame that this slave seal has brought you? As long as this slave seal exists, you are not a complete person. You're not even a person, you're just a dog." Hinata Ningji stared at Otsutsuki Tonari. The blue veins on the whites of his eyes jumped, like an angry beast about to devour people. Otsutsuki Tonari praised, "Your eyes are good, but the person you should stare at is not me. I'm a member of the branch family like you. I'm even worse than you, I don't even have eyes." Hinata Ningji looked at Otsutsuki Tonari's dry eyelids, and his emotions gradually calmed down. He said indifferently, "Without eyes, how do you see things?" Otsutsuki Tonari explained enthusiastically, with the mind's eye jutsu. The principle is similar to genjutsu. It's called the mind's eye because it spreads spiritual power outside the body. Are you interested? I'll teach you when we go back. This ninjutsu is quite interesting. It may be useful in the future. Hinata Ningji replied coldly, "No need. Can you really undo my curse?" Tonari Otsutsuki swore, "I swear." Hinata Ningji asked, "What's the price?" Otsutsuki Tonari chuckled, "You'll know when the time comes." "All right, come with me. It'll be troublesome if your friend suddenly comes back." Tonari Otsutsuki turned and left. He did not seem to be worried that Hinata Ningji would suddenly attack or that Hinata Ningji would escape. Hinata Ningji clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. In the end, he relaxed his fists and looked back at the top of the snowy mountain behind him. Then, he turned and left. As for Xiao Li, in Naruto's vision, Xiao Li was desperately jumping up the mountain. He even cheered himself on. "Ningji, I won't let you catch up with me. Teacher Metke, I won't embarrass you. I must be the first to reach the top of the mountain." Xiao Li's big round eyes stared straight ahead. In a trance, he seemed to see Metke grinning and giving him a thumbs up. Then, Xiao Li jumped even harder, as if he was determined to protect this smile with his life. This scene made Naruto's face numb. He concluded, "This is an idiot." Naruto remembered that Metke seemed to have asked him to find Xiao Li. Thinking of this, Naruto took a screenshot and sent it out. Metke immediately responded after receiving the message. "Why is it snowing? Is Xiao Li on his way to the snow country?" Obviously, Metke regarded the scene in the picture as the vicinity of the snow country. Naruto replied casually, "Well, Metkei was excited. Which direction is he? I'll go and meet him. Naruto. Naruto thought for a while and replied, north. Mike Guy's face was full of excitement. Okay. Thank you very much. In the picture, Metkei bowed 90 degrees to Naruto. Naruto's mood suddenly became very complicated. Did Metkei not know that north was the North Pole? Metkei hung up the phone, and Metkai's image disappeared. It didn't take long for Mato Guy to call Naruto again. He stared at the watermelon head and asked with a puzzled expression, why did Shaoli jump from the North Pole? Did he finally find out? Naruto replied, because he got lost and went around in a circle. Sometimes, God would joke. Naruto really wanted to see a person jump to the North Pole with a serious face. Metkei was enlightened. I see. Then, he bowed 90 degrees, thank you very much. Finally, he hung up the phone and jumped. Naruto saw this scene clearly through the snow and ice in the sky. Why do I suddenly feel that this scene is a little touching? Preserved Egg replied, because he's stupid. Naruto nodded. It was a form of acknowledgement. Naruto's gaze fell on Shaoli. Spatial teleportation. Shaoli did not feel anything strange. It was just that the wind and snow suddenly became stronger, and he could not help but squint his eyes. The next moment, he disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was sent to the periphery of the North Pole by Naruto. As for the scenery, Naruto thought about it, and a medium-sized illusion was cast in front of Shaoli. Shaoli saw the mountain that he wanted to conquer. Preserved Egg, when do you think this pair of master and disciple will meet? Preserved Egg calculated the speed of the master and disciple, and then checked the distance between the two places. If they don't sleep, it will take at least 3 or 4 months. Naruto thought, this pair of master and disciple won't starve to death, right? Preserved Egg said affirmatively, how can a ninja starve to death? Naruto laughed. Then I will set the direction of Shaoli's advance so that no matter which direction he jumps, he will advance towards the snow country. Preserved Egg said seriously, in this case, he may really starve to death. After all, it is very likely that he won't encounter any prey, and even if he does, he won't be able to catch up. The discussion between Naruto and Preserved Egg was heard very clearly by Otsutsuki Kagaya, who was another resident in Naruto's body. The way she looked at Naruto changed. The corner of her eyes couldn't stop twitching. It was the expression of seeing a demon. Naruto and Preserved Egg talked and helped Shaoli teleport once. Finally, they estimated the location where the master and disciple would meet before Naruto's wedding. That is, 2 weeks, 14 days later. Mingdu Empire. Obito appeared in Uchiha Itachi's cell and took Uchiha Itachi away. Naruto watched the whole process and didn't stop it, and organized Kisame, who found the abnormality. System prompt, you have received a video call request from Uchiha Sasuke. The call was connected. Itachi's crow was taken away by the psychic. Naruto replied calmly, I know. Uchiha Sasuke asked curiously, you convinced him? Naruto shrugged helplessly. Do you think it is possible? Uchiha Sasuke's expression became serious. Then, something happened. Naruto nodded and laughed. Don't worry, everything is under control. Sasuke asked, is it Obito? Naruto nodded. Sasuke continued, you promised me that you would not hurt Uchiha Itachi. Naruto continued to nod. This promise will not change. Well, you came for nothing. Now come back. The call ended. Sasuke stood in the heavy snow and looked up at the flying snow for a long time without speaking. If you break your promise, I will not let you go. As soon as this sentence fell, the snow in the place where Sasuke was located suddenly became more than a little, and the temperature suddenly dropped, and it was still continuous. Soon, Sasuke's armor formed a layer of ice. This situation completely violated the normal physical phenomenon. Sasuke's mouth was frozen. Uzumaki Naruto. Chapter 674. It snowed all night and didn't stop until the next day. The strange weather also changed from midwinter to midsummer. Very few people knew what had happened yesterday. Therefore, on the system forum, the most common question was, did it snow yesterday? Or, the snow finally stopped. Then there was the discussion about where the snow came from. No one came up with evidence to prove this matter, and finally, this matter became known by word of mouth. The Mingdu Empire gradually returned to normal from top to bottom. Everyone went back to work, and everyone went back to work. Those who were planning someone's wedding continued to plan someone's wedding. The capital of the Mingdu Empire became lively again. In a remote area of the Mingdu Empire, in an underground stone room, Uchiha Obito transplanted the Rinnegan that had just been transplanted not long ago into Itachi's body. "Where's my other Sharingan?" On the operating table, Itachi asked. Obito simply replied, "It's still with Naruto. If you want it, go get it yourself." Itachi's expression was indifferent. "Is that so? I'll get it back." Obito asked, "Now, according to the agreement, you should remove the genjutsu on me." Itachi stopped Uchiha Obito from wrapping the gauze around him. He sat up and closed his eyes as he replied, "Don't worry, there's no need to rush." With that, he made a hand seal. Summoning jutsu. Boom! Clouds and mist curled around, and a crow that was obviously bigger than an ordinary crow appeared beside Itachi. The clouds and mist didn't disperse, and Itachi's hand reached for the crow's eyes. The next moment, an eyeball was dug out by him. Then he stuffed it into the other eye socket. "When these two eyes are healed, I can help you recover your original memory. Before that, there is someone who wants to see you." Itachi didn't know when the Yin-Yang seal of the Rikudo Sennin appeared on his hand again. At the same time, two people who were bolder than Obito didn't choose the dark and damp underground, but found a hot spring hotel in a relatively remote town. These two people were Tonari Otsutsuki and Hinata Ningji. Hinata Ningji was lying on the bed, neatly dressed and not covered with a blanket. It was worth noting that the headband on his head had been removed. Under the forehead protector, the original green rune, Caged Bird, had disappeared. However, what was even more eye-catching was that his eyes were also wrapped in gauze. The bandage was bulging, but the eye socket seemed to have sunk a little. Otsutsuki Tonari held a jar in his hand and shook it. The jar was filled with an unknown liquid. In the liquid, a pair of eyeballs floated up and down. "Have you learned the ninjutsu I taught you? That technique is the Tao you will use in the future." The technique that Otsutsuki Tonari mentioned was the mind's eye technique. There was no response. Hinata Ningji lay there quietly, motionless as if he had fallen asleep. Tonari Otsutsuki shook the bottle in his hand again, and the two eyeballs turned inside, like two huge white tadpoles swimming in the water, chasing each other, because the back of the eyeballs held a long tail. "I will borrow your eyes for a while. I'll give you another pair in the future." Hinata Ningji still didn't answer. Otsutsuki Tonari put the container with the eyeballs in his sleeve and left the room. Instead of leaving the hot spring hotel, he entered another room not far away. Then he did an eye transplant surgery for himself. The whole process was silent. Occasionally, a few sounds of eyeballs being fished out of the container and then stuffed into the eye socket could be heard. "Huh. I feel it. The purity of this Byakugan is high enough to meet the requirements of Tensigan," Otsutsuki Tonari exclaimed. Otsutsuki Tonari injected chakra into the newly transplanted Byakugan. The Byakugan took the initiative to take root in Otsutsuki's eye socket and perfectly integrated with Otsutsuki's body. Otsutsuki Tonari's body showed a very strong self-healing ability. It seemed that it was not inferior to Senju or the Uzumaki clan. Immediately afterward, Otsutsuki Tonari continued to inject chakra. On the eyeball of the Byakugan, the originally blurry pupil became clear and converged into a blue pupil. Chakra continued to inject, and the color of the pupil gradually deepened. Suddenly, no one knew if the absorption of chakra was saturated, but the Byakugan suddenly shrank. Otsutsuki Tonari's body also stiffened, and a cry of joy came out of his mouth while enduring the pain. "I feel the fetal movement of Tensigan." It's a success. Naruto was beside Otsutsuki. Otsutsuki couldn't see Naruto, but Naruto had been watching Otsutsuki Tonari. Seeing Hinata Ninji's Byakugan change on Otsutsuki Tonari's body, he asked, "Is it a success?" Otsutsuki Tonari subconsciously replied, "Well, it's a success." After answering, he was shocked. There was no one in the room. Where did the sound come from? Who was talking to him? Who is hiding there? Otsutsuki Tonari looked in the direction of the sound just now. But Tenseigan was still in the process of formation, and it couldn't exert the power it should have. He forced his eyes to move, but it only brought him great pain. Naruto didn't answer Otsutsuki Tonari's words, and said to himself, "So, it seems that it's a bloodline problem? Lend me your flesh and blood for research." Otsutsuki Tonari only felt his scalp tingle, and an unprecedented sense of crisis came to his heart. He wanted to dodge and escape, but the next moment, a sword light flashed, and his shoulder felt cold, and then his entire left arm was cut off. He watched his arm strangely float up. There was no blood during the whole process. It was not because the sword was too fast. It was because the moment the arm was separated from the body, a layer of skin grew out of the wound. This was not a change in the Otsutsuki clan system. Otsutsuki Tonari stared at the arm floating in the sky, stunned. The wound on the arm also healed. "Lend me this arm for research." The voice in the air came again, and then the arm disappeared. "Your Tenseigan doesn't seem to have fully evolved yet, right? How long will this process take?" Otsutsuki Tonari's mouth was half open, and he didn't want to answer, but the voice seemed to have magical power, and he couldn't help but answer, 7 days, you need to experience 3 fetal movements." The voice replied, 7 days, huh? I see, I'll study it first. Naruto left Otsutsuki Tonari's room, and when he reappeared, he was in Hinata Ninji's room next door. Naruto pressed his hand on Hinata Ninji's eyes. Inyang release. Shinigami rebirth. Hinata Ninji's dry eyes bulged visibly. "I'll get married in a few days. Remember to attend my wedding." Chapter 675. Naruto took Otsutsuki Tonari's arm back to the laboratory of the Mingu Empire. Then he called Hinata over. Naruto put his hands behind his back. "Hinata, do you want to evolve the Byakugan into Tenseigan?" Hinata has seen the huge Tenseigan, so she naturally knows what the Tenseigan is. At the same time, she also heard Naruto say that Otsutsuki Tonari wanted to take away her sister's Byakugan to awaken the Tenseigan. So she asked curiously, "Can I also awaken the Tenseigan?" Naruto took out Otsutsuki Tonari's arm that was hidden behind him. "Dang! Dang! 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 Look what I've prepared for you." Generally speaking, what a boy suddenly takes out from behind him should be a rose. Then when a girl sees a rose, most of them will show a surprised look. But, when the flower turns into a human arm, how should a girl react? Hinata looked at the arm in amazement. First of all, this is a left hand, ruling out the possibility of it being Danzo's arm. Hinata remembered that the arm should be a right hand. So whose hand is this? Why did Naruto take out an arm? Could it be that this arm was for her? Hinata was nervous, but she still tried to stay calm. At the same time, she comforted herself, maybe this arm is actually fake. For example, a mechanical arm, or the strange pillow newly designed by the Snow Country. Naruto-kun, what is this? Naruto's mouth cracked open, revealing neat white front teeth. That's a good question. This is an arm I took from Otsutsuki Tonari's body to do experiments on the Tenseigan. Otsutsuki Tonari's arm. Then, was this a real arm? Fortunately, Hinata is a ninja, and because of Yakushi's pocket, she has already seen a lot. An arm doesn't scare her, but it feels a little strange. There is also an inexplicable sense of nausea. I have to hold back the nausea, and I can't show it in front of Naruto. Hinata warned herself. She forced a smile and said, "Ah, it's Otsutsuki Tonari's arm, what is Naruto-kun going to do with it? Naruto snapped his fingers. Inserted in the flower pot, Danzo's arm was directly summoned. At this time, there were 4 eyes on Danzo's arm. 2 red eyes, Sharingan size, Sharingan size, Sharingan size. Danzo's arm was summoned, and the 2 Sharingan on his green, plant-like arm glanced at Naruto, then at Hinata, and finally stared at Tonari's arm for a while, like 2 curious babies. During this period, Naruto's eyes were still calm. Hinata swore that this strange potted plant was not cute no matter how many times she looked at it. Especially when the eyes on it were staring at her. But even so, Hinata kept warning herself in her heart, "Hold on, don't let Naruto feel weak." Huh? Naruto, these eyes. Aren't they your eyes? Hinata noticed the familiar pair of fox's eyes and couldn't help but point to the pair of eyes and ask Naruto. Naruto looked at the place where Hinata's finger pointed and replied, "You said these 2 idiots, they are indeed my eyes." Hinata felt that Naruto's words were interesting, so she repeated, "Idiots." Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, you see these 2 guys are standing there all day, they don't even turn around." "Well, let's not talk about these 2 idiots." Naruto put the pot with Danzo's arm on the experiment table. He picked up Tonari Otsutsuki's arm again and said, "I saw that Tonari Otsutsuki's eyes evolved into Tenseigan after transplanting the Byakugan. I think the evolution of Tenseigan should be related to the bloodline of the Otsutsuki clan." Hinata listened to Naruto's words and quickly asked, "That person got the Byakugan. Whose is it? Hanabi's?" Hinata was a little flustered, because Naruto said before that Tonari Otsutsuki was eyeing Hanabi. Naruto saw Hinata was nervous and quickly explained, "It's not Hanabi's, it's Hinata Ninji's." Hinata's hand that was holding the corner of her clothes suddenly clenched into a fist. She didn't relax because it wasn't Hanabi, but seemed to be more nervous. It's not that Ninji is more important in Hinata's mind. It's the accurate news from Naruto's mouth that someone from the Hyuga clan has been killed. Ninji. Aizen's eyes were gouged out? Naruto quickly continued to explain, "It's okay, I cured his eyes." Hinata's expression finally relaxed. Naruto added, "I also invited him to our wedding, but I don't know if he will come." "Alright, let's not talk about that fellow for now. That fellow is also a taciturn gourd. Back to the topic, Hinata, do you want to awaken the Tenseigan?" Hinata was still a little worried about Hinata Ninji, but since Naruto said that he has been cured, then he is really cured. As for whether she can visit him, Hinata herself is also very clear that her brother has always been dissatisfied with the main family in his heart. So, if they don't meet, maybe it's better than meeting. She doesn't know if Ninji Anai-san will attend her wedding. Hinata, I want to awaken. For Tenseigan, Hinata's idea is very simple. Since Tenseigan is the evolved version of Byakugan, it must be stronger than Byakugan. And the stronger she becomes, the more things she can help Naruto. And as long as it can help Naruto, she is willing to try. Well, then let's do a small experiment. The experiment is very simple. First transplant the Byakugan to Otsutsuki Tonari's arm and see if there is any reaction. Naruto saw the unnatural look on Hinata's face, and in order to show that the experiment is easy, he took the initiative to do a demonstration. Naruto easily dug out one of his Rinnegan Sharingan. Look, just like this. It's very simple. Naruto pulled Danzo's arm out of the flower pot, leaving the soil. Danzo's arm turned from wood to a normal arm. Just put it in like this. Naruto gently stuffed the Rinnegan Sharingan into Danzo's arm. Let's observe the changes in the eyeball first. After the observation, just dig out the eyeball again and put it back. With that said, Naruto gently dug out the Rinnegan Sharingan and put it back into the eye socket. Naruto's body's self-healing ability now doesn't need treatment, and the eyeball grows back by itself. Come on, I'll help you dig out the eyeball. You can rest assured that there won't be any pain. Hinata wanted to shrink back. It's too weird to dig out the eyeball and then observe the eyeball. But in the end, Hinata nodded. I'll leave it to Naruto-kun. Naruto raised his hand and put it in front of one of Hinata's eyeballs. Relax, I won't let you feel any discomfort. Hinata didn't feel any pain. She only felt darkness in front of her, and one of her eyeballs was taken out by Naruto. Then she watched Naruto skillfully make a slot on Otsutsuki Tonari's arm, and a Byakugan was easily stuffed in. Well, now let's observe the changes in this eyeball together. It doesn't hurt. Hinata gently touched the socket where the eyeball was missing, and suddenly felt that it would be fun to take out the eyeball or something. Well, okay, that. Do I need to write an observation diary? Chapter 676. After Hinata's Byakugan was transplanted to Otsutsuki Tonari's arm, it didn't turn around like Rinnegan, and it stayed there quietly without any change. Not far away, the two Rinnegan on Danzo's arm were happy, looking at each other curiously, and sometimes looking at Otsutsuki Tonari's arm. Naruto-kun, it seems that there is no change. Hinata stared at the Byakugan without blinking, observing it very carefully. Naruto recalled the situation of Otsutsuki Tonari transplanting Hinata Ninji's Byakugan and said, "It's probably because there is no chakra injecting Byakugan." Wait, let me try. With that, Naruto's spiritual body drilled into Otsutsuki Tonari's arm, taking the initiative to extract the vitality in Otsutsuki Tonari's arm cells and integrate it with his spiritual power. At first, Naruto was a little hindered, and Otsutsuki Tonari's remaining consciousness was still in this arm. But how could Otsutsuki Tonari's remaining consciousness be Naruto's opponent? Almost as soon as Naruto thought, it was scattered. Chakra synthesis was successful, and Naruto controlled chakra to integrate it into Hinata's Byakugan. Hey, there's a change. Is this Tenseigan? Hinata's Byakugan's originally blurry pupils became clear, but it was not the ordinary black, nor was it the aqua blue of Otsutsuki Tonari, but dark purple. After Naruto injected chakra into Byakugan, Hinata's Byakugan seemed to be activated, and no longer needed Naruto's guidance. It began to extract the vitality in Otsutsuki Tonari's cells and integrate it with chakra. It should be. But it's not complete yet. It is said that Tenseigan can only be bred after 3 fetal movements in a week. Fetal movements? Hinata turned to Naruto. What does fetal movement mean? Naruto explained, I'm not too sure, but it probably means to take its nurture. Hinata nodded as if she understood. Then do I have to take off the other eye and keep it on this arm? Naruto thought for a while and replied, let's do an experiment first. It is said that the Tenseigan cannot leave the body of the Otsutsuki clan. After leaving the body, the Tenseigan will degenerate into Byakugan. Naruto waited for Hinata's Byakugan to stop devouring chakra before he plucked the Byakugan that had completed its first fetal movement. He gently stuffed it into Hinata's eye socket. It was a simple healing technique, and Hinata blinked. What's the difference? Hinata closed her left and right eyes. It seems that I can see more clearly. Naruto condensed a mirror out of ice. Let's continue observing. Hinata stared at her own eyes in the mirror. Naruto also looked at her. About 10 minutes later, the color on the eye began to fade, and eventually it became an ordinary Byakugan. Naruto-kun, did you fail? Naruto grinned. No, this is a success. Otsutsuki Tonari's system is indeed the key to evolving the Byakugan into the Tenseigan. In the past, I wanted to replace it with Shodai cells, but now it seems that some conditions can't be replaced. So the question is, how did Naruto's son in the original world awaken a special dojutsu? According to the development of the original world, Naruto remembered that the guy named Uzumaki Boruto had a special dojutsu. Could it be, when Hinata was caught by Otsutsuki Tonari on the moon? No, Boruto's hair is still like his father's. So, genetic mutation, skipping generations? Naruto shook his head and decided not to think about this headache. With a wave of his right hand, a piece of flesh was scraped off from Otsutsuki Tonari's arm. Let's talk about the Tenseigan later. Let's do another experiment. Hinata, I'm going to take a piece of your flesh. Naruto's hand gently picked up Hinata's arm. A ball of flesh appeared in Naruto's hand. Then it was the healing technique. Hinata didn't feel any pain, and when she reacted, her arm had already recovered. Does it hurt? Naruto asked. Hinata touched her arm and shook her head. I just feel cold. Pain is impossible. Naruto deliberately interfered with Hinata's nerve transmission just now. The pain signal was intercepted by Naruto as soon as it was produced, and it didn't have a chance to be transmitted to the brain. Next, let's see if these two pieces of flesh can coexist peacefully after fusing together. Naruto put the two pieces of flesh together. Otsutsuki Tonari's flesh and blood were very regenerative, and the bloody surface began to repair itself visibly. Skin tissue appeared, and it didn't intend to fuse with Hinata's flesh and blood. On the contrary, Hinata's flesh and blood should be fused with Shodai's cells, and it was extremely aggressive after leaving the body. First, it turned into wood, and then it pulled out branches and leaves to form wooden thorns. After the wooden thorns were formed, they directly pierced into Otsutsuki Tonari's flesh and blood. Then Otsutsuki Tonari's flesh turned into a piece of wood visible to the naked eye. Finally, the wood turned back into a round rolling ball of flesh and crawled towards Danzo's flower pot. It took root beside Danzo's arm and turned back into a small plant much shorter than Danzo's arm. Naruto and Hinata were stunned by the whole process. Why do I feel like this meat has turned into a spirit? Naruto stared blankly at the small plant that appeared in the flower pot. Naruto, Hinata, the small plant that was thrown on the ground turned back into a ball of flesh and rolled towards the table again. The ball of flesh twisted and stretched out two claws. It climbed up the table leg and crawled into the flower pot on Danzo's arm again. Hiss. Naruto sucked in a breath of cold air. This meat has indeed turned into a spirit. Naruto suddenly wanted to see what would happen if he cut off a piece of flesh from his body. He felt that it might directly become a person calling him father. Thinking of this, Naruto felt a chill and quickly extinguished this dangerous idea. It seems that the fusion was very successful. Naruto waved his hand and tore off a piece of flesh from Otsutsuki Tonari's arm again, and then stuck it on Hinata's arm. He used Chakra's scalpel to open a hole on Hinata's arm and let it be separated from Hinata's flesh and blood. After Otsutsuki Tonari's flesh and blood left his arm, it began to shrink into a ball, and after touching the hole on Hinata's arm, it grew on it. It looked like a lump of flesh. It was a little ugly, but fortunately, this didn't last long, and the ball of flesh continued to shrink and merge into Hinata's body. Then the outline of a human face appeared. Naruto recognized that it was Otsutsuki Tonari's appearance. The spiritual power in Otsutsuki Tonari's flesh and blood was still there. This was like a person transplanted with the first-generation cells would have a first-generation's face. Fortunately, Naruto had experience and knew how to deal with it. Otherwise, if another man's head appeared on his wife, well, Naruto raised his hand and was about to cover Otsutsuki Tonari's face when the flesh and blood around the face suddenly twisted. Naruto was taken aback and stopped to watch the change. He saw that the face was getting smaller and smaller, from the size of a fist to the size of a fingernail. Finally, it was erased. It seemed that Hinata's cells, which had fused with the first-generation cells, were more overbearing. Naruto-kun, did you succeed? Who is that face? Is it the Otsutsuki Tonari you mentioned? Hinata stared at her arm intently. Just now, when she saw a strange man's face appear on her body, she was shocked. At this time, seeing the face disappear again, she was a little curious. Naruto stared at Hinata's arm, and after confirming that the face didn't appear again, he used his mind to drill into Hinata's arm to take a look. He confirmed that Otsutsuki Tonari's aura was no longer there. He replied, "It's that guy." While talking, Naruto picked another piece of flesh and fused it with his body this time. The process was the same. Naruto opened a small hole in his hand. But the reaction was much more intense than Hinata's. After Naruto's body felt the flesh and blood of Otsutsuki Tonari, the wound directly grew, like a huge shark from the deep sea, biting down the piece of flesh in one bite. Even Naruto was taken aback by this change. What's wrong with my body? Is there a strange beast in my body? Naruto-kun, are you okay? On the side, Hinata was also taken aback. Naruto pretended to be calm and said, "It's okay, I'll try again." Carefully biting his lip, Naruto opened a small hole in his body again. Then, he held the flesh and blood of Otsutsuki Tonari in his hand. Unfortunately, there was no strange phenomenon this time, and the wound no longer fused with Otsutsuki Tonari's flesh and blood. It just healed on its own, as if it was full. Naruto was still worried and asked Century Egg, "Century Egg, do you know what's going on?" A line of words appeared on the surface of Century Egg's eggshell: "The flesh and blood is deified. This is a normal phenomenon, just like Otsutsuki Kagaya can turn her consciousness into a Zetsu." Deified? Naruto thought of the Shiba Inu. It doesn't seem difficult to accept. Naruto looked up and saw Hinata still looking at him worriedly. He sorted out his complicated mood and pretended to be calm. "It's okay, this is a normal phenomenon. Hinata, inject chakra into Byakugan and see." Hinata was still a little confused, but since Naruto-kun said it was okay, then it was okay. "Okay, I'll try." Hinata injected chakra into Byakugan. Strangely, Hinata's face didn't have any blue veins popping out around her eyes this time. After chakra injected Byakugan, the pupils of Byakugan became clear again. They were light purple. Just as Hinata's pupils stabilized, Hinata's body suddenly trembled, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. She seemed to be enduring severe pain. Naruto quickly went forward to support Hinata. The pain came and went quickly, and Hinata returned to normal. Hinata blinked and replied, "It doesn't hurt anymore." Naruto nodded and said, "That feeling just now should be the so-called fetal movement. After this, it will appear twice in the next 7 days." Hinata looked at Naruto. Their eyes met, and they looked at each other's eyes. Feelings were born. Naruto couldn't help but move closer to her. Little by little, little by little. At this time, the 2 Sharingan on Danzo's arm also quieted down, and he stared at Naruto and Hinata. But because of the angle, he couldn't see clearly, so he controlled Danzo's arm to twist and pull out 2 branches, and the 2 eyes were at the top of the branches. They looked like the eyes of a snail. Naruto's face was close to Hinata, and the snail Sharingan was close to the 2 of them. Just as Naruto's mouth was about to be printed on Hinata's mouth, 2 big eyes observed the 2 of them very closely. Hinata saw the 2 snail Sharingan and felt shy. "Don't. Someone is watching." The purple light of the initial awakening of the Tenseigan flashed slightly, and Naruto was pushed out by a strong force in the air. The repulsive force of gravity control. The pair of snail Sharingan was also pushed out together with the flower pot. The flower pot was about to hit the wall, and Danzo's arm stretched out in time to cushion the impact. So the flower pot didn't break. Naruto reacted at the moment when he was bounced back. He didn't hit the wall. When he was pushed 1 meter away, he made his body invisible and transferred his body to the space interlayer, easily avoiding the influence of the repulsive force. "Hinata, have you awakened the ability of the Tenseigan?" Naruto looked at Hinata in surprise. Hinata was stunned for a moment, and shook her head blankly. "I just wanted to push you away." "But I didn't mean it, just now they were watching." Naruto stared at the 2 snail Sharingan, and the snail Sharingan was frightened and shrank back directly. "It's quite cute to be scared." Naruto's body returned to the physical form. "Hinata, try again, can you still use that power?" Hinata looked at Naruto. She shouted in her mind, "Push." No response. Hinata injected chakra into the Tenseigan, but there was no response. Instead, her eyelids suddenly became heavier and heavier, and she became sleepy. "Naruto-kun." Hinata forced herself not to close her eyes, but the sudden sleepiness became stronger and stronger. Even her whole body was dozing off. "I'm suddenly so tired. I want to sleep." Hinata's voice became smaller and smaller, and when she said the word awakening, her eyes closed and couldn't open again. She fell asleep directly. Naruto took the lead and hugged Hinata in his arms, supporting Hinata's head with his right hand and Hinata's body with his left hand. A standard princess hug. It should be caused by the initial awakening of the Tensigen. Naruto muttered. With a thought, Danzo's arm was sent back to the special storage place. Then he disappeared from the laboratory with Hinata in his arms. Only Tonari's arm was left in the laboratory. As for Hinata's flesh, it grabbed the flower pot containing Danzo's arm and left together. Danzo's arm has a special storage space. The bright sun shone here, and the arm that turned into a plant lazily enjoyed the warmth of the sun, then reached out and picked up the kettle on the side to water himself. The branches and leaves swayed gently, and it was very comfortable. At this time, Hinata's flesh quietly climbed up the flower pot, and then quietly took root and turned into a plant to enjoy the sun together. The two Sharingan looked over and were about to pull out the guy who was competing for nutrients again. But Naruto's pair of fox vertical pupils suddenly moved and looked up. The two Sharingan stiffened at the same time. Danzo's arm returned to normal, and he didn't make any more movements. The two plants rhythmically moved together, enjoying the beauty of the sun. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.